Hello, and welcome to Spotlight, here recorded live on Grapple Patreon. I'm Benno.
And I'm JP.
And I'm not where I usually am, JP, based on that music that you've lovely put together for us. But yeah, I am in fact out in Thailand. Although you look like you're the one on the on Party Street there. I feel like I recognise your background there with you, JP.
I decided to take a leaf out of your book, ditch all the kids, and go to a full moon party. That's where I am at the minute. There were some other ones which had some traditional sort of like Buddhist style statues in the background and whatnot, and at least if the neighbours can hear that, they're probably stood to attention. I would have thought, a little bit of late night. Late night.
I was worried about recording. Like we should say it's midnight Thailand time here, but I'm in my Airbnb. I've moved on. I'm still a little bit John Motson with me portable microphone area, JP, for them coming through crisp. I have ordered Lazada is the big one out here, not Amazon. Lazada's where you order your stuff, but I wanted to wait till I was in my Airbnb to get some stuff sent. So I've got a new pair of headphones coming. I've got a nice little microphone stand coming, little ring light and stuff. So hopefully I won't look too washed out. But yeah, once that's here, it'll be full professional. But I kind of like this. It does make you feel like I'm stood in the stands on Match of the Day, talking about like an 89th minute winner.
Exactly, it's what you should have been doing. Like now, just talking about Everton's last home game at Goodison is really what you should be going into.
I'm sad to be missing that. I am. My uncle's having. I'm more sad. My uncle's having a little party, and we wouldn't talk about Facebook if I did go. But my uncle's having a little party with all the family around for the final game at Goodison coming up and stuff as well. So I'll be watching it here, but it'll be 3 a.m. Or whatever time it turns out to be, which actually is prime Benno hours. So it kind of it all comes up perfectly.
I'm imagining as well, given how much people tend to be in the Premier League all and around Southeast Asia, there'll be some Thai lad in an Everton shirt in tears for them leaving Goodison, and you'll just be looking, going like, "What's going on? This suddenly got real, didn't it?" As they're playing Southampton.
The only lads I'll see who are wearing Everton stuff. Did you see? I went for a pint with Ewan with an E from the Discord and a Voices of Wrestling fame. He was living out here. We were like chips passing in the night as he's headed back to the UK now. But we went for a pint in this weird bar, like right off like one of the main streets, like near a soak in the middle of Bangkok. And I think they were going for like a international leaders type of thing, but like. Some of the people that were on the wall were a little bit questionable. You know, there's a big picture of Trump. There's a big picture of certain leaders from certain warmongering countries around the world, but were on the wall. There was a picture of what I think might have been Hitler, but I'm not 100% sure it was him. All of that was quite bad, but I kind of get it. Lost in translation. Maybe we don't know what we're going for. The worst thing I saw was when I went to the urinal and I saw a little sticker on the wall with like an Everton badge on it. And Ewan had told me about it actually before I went in to keep an eye out for it, and I looked. And it was something like Everton's Rhyl Supporters Club, or worse than it was like the Rhyl Motorbike Gang or something like that of Everton fans. So apparently there's a motorbike gang of Welsh lads who support Everton out here. And if you know anything about Everton, we don't like to admit our big Welsh fan base. That's the thing. Gareth and Matty and the like can throw back at us. But maybe they'll be my mates out here. Maybe that's why I flew out here 14 hours for that.
Well, especially if they're into like say DOA and they're dressed, big fans.
Could start a whole thing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but big fans of old. Was it Brian Adams and who were the other two lads? Those fucking shit brothers. I've forgotten their name. I should know this stuff. Been doing a wrestling podcast for years.
Skull and April, you mean, mate?
Skull and April, the Harris brothers.
They'd have enjoyed that bar I was in. Yeah.
I
don't have like that. No further comments on that, but yeah, obviously it is a little bit different as far as setup goes for those who are seeing us on the public feed. If you want to hear more tales of me being in Thailand, we did do a pre-show at the weekend where went through different things. I feel like this weekend's pre-show, JP, I'm gonna have to just open the fridge that's behind me in this lovely Airbnb and just show Matty my pickled mangoes and Thai red curries and other wonderful things I've got hiding there behind me. Bit of interesting foreign chocolate, you know what I mean? Like the cheapest one, but it was the label I didn't recognise the most from 7-Eleven. Little pork burger there with rice as the bun. I've got some good stuff. I could maybe review at the weekend again. All worth the trip.
50p tea, was it? Is it like something daft as well?
A little bit, although I did find, and again, I'm blowing all over the weekend. I should be careful when I use that language over here. But like, I went to the Tesco Lotus at the weekend, which is like basically their big Tesco, more expensive. more expensive than the corner shop, than the 7-Eleven. I thought I was going to go in there. I was going to be bathing in like 10p ready meals and cheap tea and coffee and stuff like that. I was like, that's where the rich people go, I think. I think the rich people go to Tesco as like a status symbol thing out here, whereas the rest of us, you know, we're living on 7-Eleven and 60p street food and the best boat noodles I've ever had in my life for 99p, which is where the real ones live, you know. It feels a little bit like Demolition Man, the end of the world, and I'm living with the proper people.
Is it called Tesco Lotus? It's branded as Tesco's.
I think it's Tesco comes up. Mostly it's Lotus, but don't hold me to that. Big C, that's the other big one out here as well. The other big shop. Yeah.
I'll tell you what, then, if that's where the rich people find out where the locals going, they're still alive. Go there, because you'll probably a weekly shop for like £2. Like, and you just absolutely like you say, just bathe yourself in those noodles. I mean, it all sounds.
I still haven't found the equivalent of the B&M bargain or the home bargains out here. Yeah, that's the little bit of extra local knowledge I'm hoping to find out. But it's early days yet, JP. I've still got time. Still got another month.
And as a follow-on from the pre-show, what is the bum gun like in your Airbnb?
All I can confess on this publicly available show, JP, is the pressure is higher. And that's all I'm willing to say. More on the pre-show at the weekend. Also, I'll tell you as well, that. I meant to mention about the horrendous flight over here as well. It wasn't all sunshine and cheap meals. I had a fucking slog over here on a premium seat on an airplane, but sat next to a gigantic Australian man, where the two of us were basically it was like sharing a single bed with a gigantic Australian man all the way over here, and it was hard going, but we'll be telling all those tales over at the weekend over there. But it is going well so far. Like I say, managing to stay in tune with everything. So we're gonna have a little catch up today. Feels like 6 million years since we've done a proper spotlight that's come out on a proper day. But we'll shots fired at Matty there. But we'll obviously be catching up on my thoughts on some WWE stuff, the WWE releases, bit of Forbidden Door. I believe you've all been snapping up the tickets for that at premium Matty-like prices there. We've got a bit of that to talk about. I even saw, as I talked about at the weekend, saw some New Japan over the weekend, JP. It was 4 p.m. Our time over here. I was sat there with a lovely bottle of Chang watching that while I was basically having my lunch in a local restaurant, which I was kind of looking over my shoulder, wondering if people wonder what the fuck I was watching. But got that in, got plenty of other stuff to catch as well. But yeah, before we get into all that, couple of quick plugs to get into. Obviously, like I said, pre-show was a doozy at the weekend, but you recorded the 5-1 afterwards. That I was again while I was walking around Tesco Lotus over here, I was listening to you talk about your favourite burger toppings. It was making me very hungry. I was going up and down the different aisles around here. I heard you talk top 5 favourite footballers. Others, basically all the non-wrestling ones, they were my favourite ones, JP. I felt like what it was like to be a listener for once, and I had a great time. It was very, very entertaining. I heard your thoughts on Leonardo DiCaprio while I was looking to get myself a nice little bin for my Airbnb. Like I say, not all glory, but it was fun to be on the other end of it, mate.
Oh, mate, honestly, it was brilliant. It was absolutely brilliant. Yeah, we did a 5-1 pick and mix, of which the patrons chose the topics. We put them into the Discord and onto the Patreon page, and yeah, like you say, it was 5 non-wrestling, 5 wrestling. Obviously, as for all of these things, the non-wrestling ones were kind of a lot more fun. Movie stars, documentaries. What were the other ones we had into the mix? Music videos, burger toppings, like you say as well.
I didn't get as far as the music videos. Did I presume somebody brought up what you call it, Unfinished Symphony? I'm pretty sure that came up. Did you have it in your phone?
I went for a different Massive Attack one on there as well, which you'll have to listen to it to find out which one it was. I went for a different one on that. I wanted to do loads of them on that. I had a whole big list. I did manage to mention Drop by the Far Side as well, which I always think is an incredible
video, the backwards one.
Yeah, incredible video for that. But yeah, that was absolutely brilliant. So we recorded that on Sunday. Obviously, we had that and the pre-show out as well. Before then, while you were getting yourself acclimatized in Thailand, we did with Chris Platt his King of the Mountain, which was CM Punk 434 days. He wasn't like stranded somewhere for 434 days. Well, he kind of was. He was stranded on semi-main events, as we discovered there as well. And it reminded me of a lot of reasons why I hated John Cena. They all sort of came back into the mix as well. But that was
he'll tell you every week in his shit promos, mate. You'll find out.
Oh yeah, exactly. Well, he's completely like, honestly to God, like completely fucking entitled to feel angry about that. And as John Cena faces John Laurinaitis while the world champion's facing fucking, I don't know, while the world champion, as Charlie runs into the room naked. So I can't even put him on the camera, because if I did, I would be the one very much getting in trouble. I can't carry you up on it, mate. I'm going to get myself massively in trouble.
But I'll take over. I thought it was. Well, I thought it was a cracking show anyway. So very much enjoyed what I heard. I'm going to get it finished, and I will be back on a proper Sunday show this weekend, as well as the pre-show, as we are doing the May mixtape, which I've now been told it isn't just a mixtape that's in May, and both of the letters begin with M, and that's why we're doing a May mixtape. Apparently, we're going to be doing matches from May in wrestling history. I haven't narrowed mine down yet. Maybe I could think with a Johnny Ace match. Maybe there's one of those that are around May. Maybe there's some ROH around May 2024. I'm still catching up. Let me know in the chat if there's anything May 2005 ROH era. Maybe there's something I could come up with. But yeah, very much looking forward to that one as well.
Really hard. I've chosen mine. I don't know if I should reveal them on air at the minute, or whether or not you're waiting for the.
We'll do it on Thursday when we got here. We'll do it on the weekend show. I'll make him wait too.
Yeah. Okay. In that case, but finding them was actually somewhat tricky. And then the two that I originally chosen were two far too long ones, and it was like, no, that's not fair. So there's one long and one short. That's what I'll say.
Fair enough.
So yeah, that's going to be on Sunday as well. So really, really looking forward to that one as well.
Well, that's coming up, and as well, we've got Sophia's Queen of the Mountain show, our first Queen of the Mountain show, as we found out. We'll be finding out her pick at the weekend on Sunday, on this week's pre-show for next week, and then the last show of May. I don't know, because Matty hasn't replied to my messages, but we'll find out. Maybe it's maybe it's an NXT takeover, maybe it's something completely different, but we'll figure it out. It's an AEW pay-per-view weekend, the last one of May, so that's why Matty's not particularly interested. But it's all going off over on the Patreon. Like I say, I've been using it to catch back up and get myself back into the mode of the world, as the Discord's been very helpful as well for me, JP, and we need to start where I think most of our patrons' money is going at the minute, which is paying for Forbidden Door tickets. It seems like it's the big hot topic at the minute. $1 million gate, we're being told, is the case for AEW's Forbidden Door coming up at the O2. Again, whether it's going to be a true sellout or not, they're going to be touting that as the gigantic success that I'm sure they'll want to tout it as. I know Gareth's got himself 4 tickets for himself, Matty, and a couple of the lads as well. Have you found yourself in the queue, JP? Have are you waiting for the secondary market? You seeing what that dynamic pricing did that sting you? So that was winding a few people up as well. Hell of a way to make yourself the heel promotion, bit of dynamic pricing.
Yeah, the dynamic pricing was the thing that completely sort of screwed me out of it. So I did. So originally, like Joe had said, right, pick up tickets for Forbidden Door. And it's like, yeah, absolutely go for it. And then I got a message very back quickly going, I'm not paying those fucking prices. And I was just like, mate, yeah, are we going to be risking it? Is it going to be sold out for it? Because I was going on there and the cheapest tickets were like £300. And I was like, absolutely not. Like, that is not going to be happening there at all. I know that, for example, for Gareth's, it's somewhere around like kind of anywhere between sort of 50 and 60 are like up in the cheap seats, which, you know, it's the O2, so it's all pretty much good sight lines everywhere. But yeah, I'm going to be relying on the secondary market and taking a very calculated risk. And I think this was something when we said about predictions for what this, for what the gate would be, is I'm predicting that he wasn't going to sell out straight away. The fact that they've reported the gate and not the ticket sales would suggest that very much isn't the case. I'd be expecting that maybe they've shifted about, say, anywhere between 9 to 10,000. I probably think at those kind of prices as well, but it's not the cheap, affordable promotion, is it?
No, that's the thing. It's like it kind of just feels wrong, doesn't it? It feels like, and I guess it's what AEW you've got to do at this point. If you are gonna run a smaller venue and you're not going to be running Wembley Stadium, you've kind of got to go almost take a playbook from WWE and go the Triple H. Are they going to do the announcement in the arena as guess what, you suckers, you all paid the most money possible for an AEW ticket. Congratulations for giving us so much money. Maybe they'll go that route, but I guess it's supply and demand. A lot of it depended as well. It looked like from following it along on the Discord jealously, like the different sites people were using. And they are saying, yeah, he saw them for hundreds. Then he logged on yesterday morning, got one for 50, which again tells you dynamic prices is a play. Obviously, Andy Ogden there saying £55 for ones for him and Jeff up top, and then they're going to do their trick of moving down. Yeah, definitely. Tap a few people on the shoulder. Just follow the Ogdens. You'll find yourself in the best possible seats. They could start a little conga down to the better seats there as well. Although, yeah, like Andy says as well, obviously there's the pre-sale link is going to have higher prices too. Apparently, if you went straight to the O2 site, I did see that. You got it a little bit cheaper as well. Ewan saying £75 as well. I mean, I guess as the people who I'm surprised Matty's going. I'm shocked at that. I only saw that from our chat today. But I think other than Matty, I think most of the people going, if you're going to be bothering your ass to go to London for what is, a regular AEW pay-per-view at this point rather than a big all-in, you're going to be, a degree of hardcore fan, and you're going to be willing to pay that amount of money,
Well, I'm looking actually at the map even as we speak, because you said Matty. And I did actually see some for 53. 53.75. They are the seats right at the very back, and there is a good few available. There's not like necessarily hundreds, but there certainly is like a good few available of those, and then into the second tier below, the sort of first sort of that premium tier box style like kind of areas as well. And I think that, I mean, and it would suggest, I mean, there are tickets in terms of just the areas that are they're available at the moment. It doesn't appear to be that they've blocked off lots of them for staging or setup or anything along those lines. Like, I think they're just wanting to do like a very minimalistic one, rather like the one they did at Wembley to a certain extent, where it was all very, very like ground level, like WWE do when they sold out the O2 or when they were in Puerto Rico. Yeah. And you sort of they come through a walkway. It looks good for TV. Obviously, when you're there live, unless you're going to be able to see it, there could be like some slight issues with that. So there are tickets available if you are looking to get them around that. It doesn't, I mean, and I think this is probably the issue is that dynamic pricing, depending on when you're going in, it's going to scare some people away. I mean, it will scare me because I think to myself, you think to yourself, okay, if you're going to do 53, you're going to a relatively awkward part of London. If you're trying to get in there as well, it's not exactly cheap to eat and drink in and around there as well at the same time.
What's the JP recommendation for the pubs in the area? Have you got any from back in the day, or it's the busy business district, isn't it? Really? It's posh pubs and even the travel lodge is posh around there.
It is, exactly. It's Greenwich. So it's like you're not a million miles away from even Canary Wharf. London City Airport's nearby that I may have to do if I'm doing the football trip to Rotterdam with the lads in September. So I'm thinking to myself, in terms of places to eat, there's a Five Guys there, which was the highlight of my trip to Arsenal the weekend. That's all I want to ever mention about that. But in terms of pubs, there isn't really there's some that are there within that venue, but it's just not an area where people live because it's the former Millennium Dome site. So if you're wanting to go to try and find a standard pub, you're gonna have to go quite some distance away from there. As far as I believe, because Greenwich was never an area that I'd ever any reason to go to unless you're a fan of nautical history and wanting to go and see kind of boats and stuff, which I really wasn't. So it's a real funny one. And then when you get to Canary Wharf, that's just more sort of Toy Town. That's always how I viewed it. It's just a kind of a strange part of the world. But as an arena and places, and I've walked across the top of it. I've done one of those sort of walks across the top. Vicky couldn't do it because she found that she was pregnant and only a few days beforehand. So it was just I can't. I'm not actually allowed to do this. So I ended up doing that with her sister and her fella as well. But it's a nice venue for them to go to. I mean, I'm surprised that they're not doing any other sort of dynamites or anything else along those lines. Maybe in and just around there. Yeah, and that's, I suppose, does that makes more sense just to the degree that there isn't going to be, at least that there's people you're expecting other than the real hardcore fans in Glasgow who are going to be coming down, that pretty much you've got your own sort of audience to itself. But I don't know if I've heard anything necessarily on the ticket sales even for Glasgow, because that seemed to be a bit in the pricey side as well, wasn't it?
And that might be the bit of more difficult one to kind of shift. I'm pretty bullish. I think they will. I think what'll happen. Dynamic pricing has gotten the likes of all that. Like, it's great to see a lot of people in the chat saying that going more for the grapple meetup more than anything. Don't know whether I'll be there myself. We'll see. But it sounds like the rest of the lads will be there or thereabouts. Maybe if I can get a cheap flight, maybe or maybe it's going to be on Tony Khan. Talk me into the building. Put your money where I'll put my money where your mouth is if the card is strong enough to come back for it. But I think that's the thing. It's the type. Our audience, sadly, with the hardcores who are listening to a podcast like this or doing a podcast like this, that was going to happen. But I think what will end up happening is, maybe as the ticket prices come down, if it doesn't fully sell out, there'll be cheaper tickets for the more gen pop, or the people on the fence, or the people who might need convincing based on a card and based on proper announcements to come out there as well. So I do feel like they'll get there with it again, with it being the smaller number than all in. But but it might be an indication, mightn't it, of where we are for next year as well. But and obviously, whether they really do Wembley for all in next year might be a question, but not the only obviously point of success AEW would say right now when it comes to the old ticket sales. Have we got JP on the ones and twos there doing the driving. Arena Mexico, I believe, has been doing particularly well. Like, what do you put this down to? Like I believe it's the case. I believe it's a shoot that it's been at an immediate sellout here for AEW and CMLL. Is it the CMLL on the banner? Is it just, as they have over the years, made it just a case of, well, there's wrestling going on at Arena Mexico and people buy tickets for it? Is it the fact that there's so much lucha talent that maybe, got that AEW collision more than the Dynamite association, but there's a lot of I'd say name guys who are coming back over for it. Is it Kenny Omega and Will Ospreay being on the poster? Is it Luchasaurus, who was apparently doing some promotional material for it as well? Bit of a surprise, that one, that it's already sold out. Shows you the evil Fed doing their bidding, and yes, we're going to be getting into that with their show 3 days before now, as well as, because there was always going to be a TripleMania on the 15th of June, on top of the NXT co-promoted show they've got going on earlier on in June. Didn't put people off from putting the money where their mouth is and coming to Arena Mexico to see some proper wrestling, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's a really funny one, isn't it? And there's all these hotel adverts coming up on my screen as I'm trying to share this across on here.
Crack and bank that, still a man, big fan.
Oh, it is. I tell you what, I'm being punished for looking for hotels.
It's no Monzo.
Flights in.
Monzo's been carrying me through. Good lads.
Oh,
like
yeah.
Monzo. Cave card too, recommend them too. If they were a sponsor.
I've got loyalty to Monzo, I'll tell you, because I even do their perks thing, which gives you a free rail card.
Me too.
Full fortune on that. Yeah.
Free sausage roll every week. Beautiful thing. That's the. If people ask me what I'm missing out of the UK, it's that. It's having a sausage roll once a week. Exciting. I'm eating great food over here, but Greg sausage roll. I miss it.
You'll find the Thai version of.
Oh, I already have. Don't worry. Yeah, I found a little bakery at the end of the road. It's great. It's cracking. They do they do this weird, right? And not to turn it again into Scran of the Week. Do like this? It's like this chili mince pastry, but you'll be into this as a dad, JP. The pastry is less pastry and more. The only way I can describe it is it tastes like a rusk. It's like chili beef sandwiched between two rusk biscuits. I don't know, maybe that sounds terrible. It's the fucking greatest thing in the world. Big fan. Greg's needs to start selling them over here, 100%.
Oh wow! I'll tell you what, mate. Honestly, it's a good job I've just eaten, because if I hadn't, then I'd just be sat here for the next couple of hours like fucking starving. If that was the case, but that sounds absolutely belting. I mean, in terms of the Arena Mexico show, I mean, there's always, and it says it in the article here from Wrestling Headlines, that there's production things to take into account in terms of staging and things like that. Because are they going to use the CMLL stage? Like, is that going to be part of it? It does have a big screen behind it, and I actually think they would, if I were them, just keep what they do normally at Arena Mexico. There would be no. You want it to have a different look and a different feel. That'd be part of like the USP for it and the appeal of it. Is it a case where this is more appealing to tourists? So immediately you've got the idea of people who are going to be in and around there who are going to be like, this is a higher level of star than people coming in. Like, for example, they did good business for the MLW crossover show. That's fucking MLW. And even then, there was relatively little MLW on there as well. And that was at Arena Colosseo as well at the same time. So what are they going to be like? I think you're going to have a combination of that. You're going to have a combination of the big stars. You've got a combination as well of some of like returning like your commanders. I think Roosh is going to be a really big draw, whether it be Beast Mortos in there as well. Lesser Drilistico. You're going to have Mystico on the card. I mean, but then Mystico is there pretty much every week anyway. But so you've got like a combination, of like some big international stars coming in from AEW and some like lucha guys. And I would almost say, like, for me, the one would be Rouge, because like when was the last time he wrestled there? And I think that's going to be like a big deal for them as well. And also, it's live on US TV. I think it's going to be like, oh, okay, that's going to have its own kind of cachet into the mixers. Into the mix as well. So
it's going to look great, isn't it?
It's going to look
great.
Tremendous.
It's going to be the best animator. That tune's just going to be just so weird, isn't it? It's going to be the weird lucha flavored American Wrestling Month. Is this tune? It's going to be like Dynamite's going to look hotter for its sins. The AEW, the WWE NXT show with AAA is probably going to look and sound probably more professional than the AAA usually does, including the TripleMania that's coming up in June as well. We're going to talk about. I mean, it's terrible I enjoy. I was going to say it's terrible if you're a fan of lucha. CML seem to be going with that, don't they? And they're really pushing apparently on their TV at the minute. We're the proper lucha company, we're the company that's giving you the history of lucha libre and kind of saying in veiled terms, we're not the one that's sold out to the big American company. Come and see the real thing. It's probably going to work for them. AEW should borrow that for their marketing. Come and see the real thing. Come see AEW. Come see the proper wrestling.
Like, I mean, there's a reason why, in terms of like sales, like CMLL has been so strong for such a long period of time, and they do like to pretty much rigidly stick to their base in Mexico City, which makes sense because they own arenas. So, like, why wouldn't they stay there? They have easier access to tourists in one of the largest cities in the world. I mean, Mexico City has a population of near 40 million people. It is gigantic and absolutely immense as well at the same time. And they can play that card. They can play that nationalism card as well. It's like, we are not owned by a corporation. I mean, I actually thought the first time that they could have done this, if they weren't doing Forbidden Door here, Forbidden Door in Arena Mexico would have also been something that would have worked really well if they were going to do that. You don't have time issues as well, do you? You don't have. It's not like the case that there is any substantial differences in time from US
only
to
for
Mexico
me
as well. Only for you, but like but generally, it's like it'd be the same time that you would expect Dynamite to be on, so there isn't going to be the effect. And obviously in the article, it also mentions on the Tuesday, you've got CMLL versus AEW and Ring of Honor. Then you've got Fantastica Mania on the 20th, which has New Japan and Rev Pro coming into the mix.
So it says something then, that it's the Grand Slam show that's sold out and not those ones. It tells you there's maybe some strength in that AEW branding, even over the border in Mexico. But yeah, see how the ticket sales do for those other shows as well. But on that note, while we're talking, AEW is world tour and catching up on where they're going to be in the world. So they're going to be bit of UK, bit of Mexico. Why not complete the triumvirate with a bit of Philadelphia? Was the other news story that came in over the last week as we catch up with ECW arena being you saw the 2300 arena. Never sound right that to me. It's always going to be the ECW arena. I always enjoyed the way it used to be, like it was sacred ground, and then like every fucking deathmatch promotion in the world ran it into the ground, to the point that Gabe ROH never ran there until he did the ECW feud, the CZW feud, and kind of had to, and then it kind of later on just became a thing they did. But Gabe, I always respected that. Gabe always tried to stay away from it and not be one of those copycat promotions running there. But I guess it's been enough time. But I don't know. I think the thing that caught my eye with this one, as I was catching up with the news as I've been flying around over the last week or so, is the timing for this one. Like, what does it mean for All Out? Obviously coming off the back of when they're out here, and obviously coming off the back of All In Texas. Like, I guess All Out is. It's been separated anyway with the All In and Forbidden Door switcheroo and nonsense. I guess maybe it means that we're not going to get it the normal weekend this year, and they're doing this instead. Like, I've got no problem with it. I think it's kind of cool. If you look at last year with Arlington, and obviously the collisions that took place there, I think it gave you a loud, rowdy crowd, and the smaller arena that you can sell because it's like, well, it's smaller, but it's the ECW arena and it's got all this history. I think it's going to tick that box too, and that crowd is going to be rowdy. It's going to be it's going to be the modern equivalent of those ECW fans, which are basically GCW fans, but rowdy young angry men in Philadelphia at all of these shows across the month. Obviously, got how many Dynamites? Is it 3 Dynamites, 3 Collisions, and the ROH death before the Sonna show at the end of August through to the start of September. It's pretty much makes sense to do these residencies, and it's something they probably should try and do more of.
Absolutely, and I think again a couple of things that I took from it as well, and you brought up some really really good points there. Like where does All Out figure into all of this? Because it would suggest, because of Death Before Dishonor being on September 5th, that maybe you want to give it an extra couple of weeks, which obviously gives it then the guts of a month being removed from All in Texas, which because All in from Forbidden Door, I should say. So being like sort of far removed from that, I think that's good, because it gives the TV, because if Forbidden Door is its own little entity, then you've got storylines that are going to be going from All In going to All Out, and actually going to have a couple of months for them to breathe.
Which is funny though, because this is kind of the time you can get away with it, isn't it? The amount they've done these back-to-back ones, and we've talked about it for 2 years in a row about like they always manage to thread the needle, and All Out always ends up sneakily being a really strong show. But like your non-canon show being the week before is almost the time you can get away with it, because AEW versus New Japan could just be that, can't it? If that's what Forbidden Door even is, maybe it's not that anymore. Maybe that's the problem, that it's not going to be that. And then you can go straight into a storyline heavy. All Out, but yeah, I guess they're taking the opportunity with All In moving regardless. And, I'm with Sam. Never the new Alhambra for me, Sam. No. Only the beer.
Yeah, no, bother me ask for that. The Arlington residency was also just Collision. It was just there for Collision. When Collision was at that point when they were Collision, and then obviously Ring of Honor pay-per-view. This one has got Dynamite as well. Now. The reason why I'm very, again, bullish on this is they'll be getting it at a decent rate. If indie shows are going to be able to run there, then you're pretty sure for a residency lasting this long, they're going to be able to sort of make it work from a finance perspective. And we saw with the NXT show that ran there, you can do a show with big LED screens that looks TV ready as well at the same time. So you can, and that's obviously a big part of it. Arlington was great for that, because it was an esports arena. So it was perfectly set up for people to be able to do that. So, and I think you're going to be able to get enough people into the mix who are going to be like, you're going to be able to get basically sellouts each and every time, because it's probably limited. I want to say the NXT show did around 1,500. And they will work out ways of squeezing it in. But even if it's only 1,000, I'm not having PJ Polaco coming out, or Cajones coming out, or I think he's still alive, or you know what I mean, Sabu being wheeled out and being the one man in AEW history that they had come out and they didn't turn the lights off and on again. Maybe they can make up for that wrong. Maybe I'd forgive that. I mean, if Sabu was going to undo his retirement, this actually might be a perfect time for him to do it. Damn, I maybe talk myself into it. All right, I'll take Sabu. No Sandman. How about that? Just no Sandman, and we're all right. No Tommy Dreamer. That's another big one. That's another rule. I think Tommy Dreamer, because of TNA, we may not get him, and I think we'll have all dodged the bullet on that one.
Thank God.
I think sadly we are getting Sandman. I can't see a way we're not getting Sandman for it as well.
They can't pay for the music, can they? Can't drink, he can't smoke on telly. I think that's enough reasons for me. Plus, he's shit and old and fat. There's all your reasons to not do it.
And it's not great TV watching a man take sort of 10 minutes to come to the ring, and he's not going to be able to wrestle, let alone swing the cane round all that much. Yeah. But I'd be bullish in terms of the attendance. Oh God, no! I still have nightmares of him. But this is the thing. I mean, Sabu in a barbed wire match, I could sit through that again. I won't lie, that was wild as fuck. Go and listen to our GrappleMania coverage, patreon.com/grapple, if you want to hear our thoughts on all of that stuff. But I think for this, all of these shows are going to sell out. It's going to work out pretty cost effective. It's going to look good on TV because it's going to be heaving. And we've seen with AEW, when they've run these smaller venues, it's added something to the TV quite dramatically. And we could, talking about the general purple patch they've been through with their TV and their shows. over recent months. That's not a coincidence. It's felt like a more engaging product because they've been visually a lot more interesting. And I always bang the drum about this, and I think this is able to continue it. Having seen what NXT did with this, has made me a lot more faithful about this. So yeah, good on them.
Yeah, I love it. I love that it's coming at this time when AEW does feel, to me, like the turn on the corner. Like, I was not surprised when I listened to the weekend show that despite it being PWG catnip, Matty still wasn't taken in by like the opener Dynamite this week. But I mean, Dynamite wasn't as good this week as it has been in the last while. I have been catching up for me sins while I've been away, sneaking in an episode here and there and doing the general catch up as we wait for JP to go. Who knew that I'd be all the way out in Thailand and it's JP having the tech problems that I am. Oh, he's back now. But yeah, I think overall AEW's been really strong over the last while, and like I say, this week's Dynamite felt a little bit more like a non-entity for me. If anything, I think Collision's been the better show over the last couple of weeks, although that's kind of the history of AEW, or at least the history of AEW in 2024 and 2025. But yeah, I think it's coming at the right time when it feels like hearts and minds are changing on AEW. Say it quietly, but maybe, there's little odds and ends of news coming out about Darby Allin breaking records while he's on his little mountain. I say little mountain, gigantic mountain. Hopefully he climbs down the other side of it quicker or sooner rather than later. Obviously the Meltzer was talking about, wasn't it, Observer Radio, that the main event of All In, speaking of that period, is a closely guarded secret within AEW. Is it going to be Swerve? Is it going to be Ospreay that beats Moxley, or is it genuinely Darby that they're waiting for? But if we can get to that too, we can get through this Joe Cage match with Moxley, which has actually been some of the more interesting Moxley stuff. Get Samoa Joe on telly cutting angry promos. Am I even going to be into that? It feels like a lot of the conversation we've had over the last while has been AEW's been good, but you take that but away as well, and then you add these quite exciting little international events coming over the next few weeks, and yeah, they're in a nice little period, AEW, where they can just be themselves and be the best version of themselves, which I think is what they've really been the last few weeks of TV.
Do you know what I think the big thing is? It feels like they're organised, even if they've not got, even if there's stuff where I'm not particularly mad about it. It feels like they're organised. It feels like it's structured. It feels like there's a more focus on who's actually going to be on TV, and there's a reason for them to be on TV. And so it isn't as haphazard as it's been in the past. Like even now, we're talking about the fact that AEW are announcing residencies for sort of late August into September, giving us an idea of like, okay. Whereas there was a point in time when none of that stuff would ever have been announced, but it feels like they are definitely more organised on that front, and their focus has generally been good. The problem has been, and All In Texas will hopefully solve it. It's like, when are we getting to the end of the Death Rider stuff? And it's how they're going to end it. Now,
could be Hangman based on the last week's Dynamite. Could be.
If you're going to bet, you'd say Hangman. My biggest fear is that he does some sort of screwy finish and it ends up in a four-way. And that four-way involves Moxley, Hangman, Ospreay, and Darby Allin. I was just thinking about it. I was like, and I wouldn't want that. He's not shown that he's got a predilection.
That'd be cowardly, wouldn't it?
That would be cowardly.
Very isn't it? Damn it.
It's very Triple H.
It will happen. Yeah.
It's very...
Actually, yeah, it's more Triple H than anything. Yeah, it is. The more do to me right now.
That kind of like cowardly aspect to it. But when I watched Dynamite this week, and obviously there was a reset, and I have to admit, there was a week that I'd missed. And then when I spoke about it on the news dump, I was like, why is Trent Beretta here? And it was like incredible. It felt like, oh God, this is a bit confusing. Like, why are we going back to this? Stokely Hathaway is the manager of FTR, and that seems to have been somewhat of a shock. So that's killed FTR for me. That's the one bit I did agree on weekend show, that they put together like this serious heel interest in FTR act, and they put like everybody's Twitter best mates comedy act as their manager. I've always been the low man on Stokely though. Maybe it's because he never followed me back on Twitter and he followed everyone else back. Maybe I feel like I'm the one who's taking the truth serum that he's actually not that good, and is mostly counterproductive to most of the thing he's in, if it's not like a
backstage comedy segment. But generally, though, I like that direction. Though I still like FTR as like a heel act. I'm enjoying MJF and the Hurt Business, like Hurt Syndicate.
Yeah.
Damn it, I'll get it right one day. Week on week, I'm enjoying that stuff. Just a little. Is Lashley's thumb gonna go all the way the other way around? How are they gonna get out of it? How is Sami Zayn gonna join? Sorry, MJF gonna join the Bloodline? It's very inspired, very clearly by WWE storytelling. But WWE's not doing that right now. WWE aren't dotting those I's and crossing those T's and doing that slower bleed stuff. WWE feel like the ones that are losing the audience. WWE are the ones who've got the heel stable being cheered and things are a little bit lopsided right now. That's something that people seem genuinely into. Maybe you can make the same argument, and I suppose I've made it myself, that MJF's maybe leaning a bit babyface again in this story. But I think they'll even get out of that. I think whatever the payoff's going to be is going to be worth the journey with that. I've been really into that too. Yeah, genuinely. You kind of titled this sectional podcast Benno's AEW section, but genuinely, it's Benno's AEW right now. Everything about it. I didn't love the. I actually didn't. I kind of nodded in agreement. I didn't love the PWG, daft tag from Dynamite. Mostly because it just took so much TV time, and two, it was just. I feel like a lot of people in this match are in either blood feuds or should be wanting to kill each other or should be, in much more, I'm not getting into the whole argument about whether they've sold Okada, Omega, well enough, whether there should be more video packages. I mean, there always should be. But, whether that's necessarily, the biggest error in the world, or whether the mythical casual fan is being properly served when you do stuff like that. I was more offended by the fact that very serious big time match, their first interactions or first proper interactions at AEW were happening with that going on in the background, with like this, just lesser than, level at this that shouldn't be. If you're gonna do it, and I wouldn't, if you're gonna run it back and you're gonna put them in a match, you've got to make it seem important. You don't necessarily need it to sell it to every casual who doesn't know the history. But you do need to sell it within your TV, and you need to sell it as, the prestigious big-time thing it is. We've always said that about AEW. That's always where they've been lacking. It's always that making you feel like something is more important than something else, and that the levels are right. Like, it should be turned up to 12 for this, and it's not turned up for 12. And that match kind of was an indication of that. As fun as it was, and as much of a laugh as I had, and it reminded me of being in like drama class when I was about 11 or so in year 6, and we were doing like a thing where we all had to act out a play, and the teacher said to us, and you know what you can do, lads? You can go on stage, put together your own play, and we'll the rest of the school will watch, and then we'll judge you. And then me and my mates got on there, and our play was Hulk Hogan versus Macho Man Randy Savage, and we basically reenacted the wrestling match, and we had a great time. But everybody was sat in the audience going, "What the fuck are you doing?" I learned that day, your entertainment is maybe comes secondary to the audience's entertainment in a moment like that. Maybe that's something that certain wrestlers could learn as well. But yeah, it was more just the like I say, the gravitas that was missing for me more than anything. That's the only minor negative I could say.
I suppose it's not so much even like a counterpoint. They do have time until the match actually happens. And one of the things, and it seems like a strange...
Do you think they'll get there, though? Do you trust this company to make it feel like that? I don't. Maybe they'll do a Hail Mary video package on the last week, and it'll have a great Rhyl song behind it. It'll have fucking some Guns N' Roses or something like that, and we'll all be crying tears, excited for the match. But I don't know. I think it'll just happen, and it'll be like, well, it's happening. Is that not good enough for you sickos? You're getting your match sorted, and then we've got 2025 Okada and Omega trying to see if they can recreate that glory, which I actually don't believe they can. But as great as they are, it'll still be a very good match. Obviously, it's just lofty even for them to aim for.
You have to explain to the audience why this is so highly regarded. Like, you have to explain why those first 4 matches were so great and why they were important as well. Mainly for as much for Kenny Omega, but just that kind of exposure for Kazuchika Okada on because of Wrestle Kingdom at that point being very much on New Japan World, being available internationally for us being able to see it. I suppose Double or Nothing throws a bit of a complication into the mix because it feels like they're viewing it as we need to get through that pay-per-view before we can announce this. And there's a part of me just says, why don't you go ahead and announce it? Omega's not fighting for the world title at All in Texas. Neither is Okada. Why don't you just go for it? And then each week you have to kind of this is where you go to New Japan and say, we need to use some of your footage. We need to show Kenny Omega like winning the G1, like not entire matches. And you can do it, and you can then have highlights of the matches, effectively like a small 3-4 minute video package of each of those matches, explaining why they are so great. And then you have your sit down interview in there. But what it's really asking you to do is it's asking Kazuchika Okada to be a different character, because that version of Okada in those matches he's an entirely different person.
That's the bigger problem.
The one we see in AEW, and they haven't shown signs they're going to move it around. He's very comfortable in it, but he's earning a fat wedge, and he's not really having to do anything particularly strenuous. Rather than what you want to see happen, which is, right, I'm going to get really serious because this is like a legacy thing, and this is my career rival, and this is where we need to get to. And for them to do that, you can imagine, dare I say it, the Bucks or someone going, no, well, they're part of this act, and this is what we do. And it's like, no, you kind of need to separate him away from the Bucks. Or even if you're
and the Bucks get that history too. I think the Bucks, if you sat them down or convinced them it was their idea, they would probably want to sell this match. Maybe this is all a moot conversation that everybody's having, and it's going to come. Maybe everyone involved, and not even maybe, they should all understand, shouldn't they? They should understand how important this is and how important you need to make it on the TV. Let's just hope they don't leave it too late to kind of show that on the telly.
It's. I mean, Chris mentions there in the chat about seeing whether New Japan would put the original matches on YouTube.
No, please don't. Someone will make us do a mixtape. One of those King of the Mountain bastards. They'll make us watch like the 90-minute matches again.
See, this is the problem.
As great as they were.
I personally
can't be asked.
Having lived them at the time, they were incredible, and I think we would have recorded. We would have been recording. Pretty much not long after that first match. But we certainly would have been for Dominion. We certainly would have been for the G1 match that happened like a year later in 2018. But the problem is with it going up into YouTube is you're getting into TV Asahi, and you wouldn't have any faith. They just wouldn't get it. Regardless, they'd be like, no, this is our content, go away, because that's how you would be. I mean, I've always wanted to do it, and then you just look at the time and but if the matches were half an hour, we would have done it like 2 years ago. We would have been like, yeah, of course we're going to fucking do this. Now you look at it and you're going, God, one of those matches is 80 minutes. The other one's 60. The short one is nearly half an hour. And then the first one's 45. And if we're putting anything else in between it, then Christ above, like that's heavy duty going. But unfortunately, that's the history you're trying to sell. So you've got to find a way of actually doing that. Yeah, you have to, and you have to make reference to it. And you have to say, if there isn't this match, Kenny Omega isn't who he is, then do the Elite become who they are and all of the momentum they gained? And then, is Tony Khan watching New Japan if they're not having that? And don't get me wrong, that's not a slight on the Tanahashi Okada matches, but you're very much like, post Tanahashi is where all of this stuff came into the mix. And we had this like big Western star in Kenny Omega, who was new and fresh and hadn't been to WWE. So they've got to start doing it. And I just think they should start doing it now. I think you could put that match and go, this is the match we're doing there. And then your world title match for the men's and the women's, which, again, the women's, we know what it's going to be. When you put those three matches on the card, you're thinking, all right, that All in Texas starts to become a lot more of an important event. And we've seen, even when
it's important, mate.
Exactly. But when they announced that match, the PWG match for Dynamite, ticket sales went massively up. They did near 4,000 for that, and I think it added 1,000 in a week. It was really that was quite substantial, just being able to put sort of those guys on the card. So you're hoping that's going to be a bit to take it from a 12, 13,000 to somewhere over 20, 25, which in a baseball stadium in the States would look impressive.
Definitely. Well, yeah, well, we're kind of talking it. Obviously, we've got a little bit of AEW news to get in, but yeah, very much for me, it's very much feeling like my AEW right now. I feel like me and Brian Danielson have got the same AEW in mind. I saw that interview he put out there this week where he said he'd be building AEW around Will Ospreay, check. Swerve Strickland, check. John Moxley, maybe not, and Kenny Omega, and also have Hangman Page and MJF in the mix. Yeah, pretty much. We're getting all those things. Even the Moxley one that I don't necessarily want. Maybe Brian should have the book. Maybe he could bring us home and complete this year. But yeah, until things go off the rails, I feel like a very happy saved AEW fan right now. Like I say, always going to be those little improvements you can absolutely make. But yeah, I think it's been strong stuff up and down the board right now. Unless you've got more on that, another couple of quick AEW notes. We're going to talk some WWE releases in a second. But obviously, yeah. The heavy duty releases are happening on the AEW NJP. As unfortunately the saddest news in wrestling this week is we will no longer be able to click our fingers unless we jump into the wild world of MLW, which is where these lads are absolutely headed. The Righteous apparently have been moved from the AEW roster page. Also had EJ and Duca announcing that he was out of contact with AEW, which is fine. It's the way to do it. We're about to go into another story in a minute where in some cases that's happened and in some cases it hasn't. I think, every employer absolutely has the right not to renew somebody's contract. I think that's a fair and a moral thing. Obviously, the Kingdom look like they've been on the way out as well. And there's a lot of to and fro, and AEW maybe just shoring up some of the talent that maybe they're not making use of on ROH. Is it a gigantic shame the Righteous are gone outside of the theme music? They had a weird old run in AEW. Remember that 3-week period where they tried to pretend they were important and the ROH tag belts were important because it saved the MJF and Adam Cole storyline, and then MJF beat them both on his own with, I think, his arm tied behind his back. That's the way I'm remembering it. Don't correct me. Kings of the Mountain, who were kicking off there in the chat there. You know, I love yous. Is it a big shame? And is there anything else there? I suppose they could have done. Maybe they could have had that rematch. I always thought they were going to get it. I always thought at some point they were going to do something with them after building them up on TV for a month, but it was just to save MJF, and that was that. But entrance theme will have to be the outro tonight, I think.
It will be. It was a banging theme. It's not a good reason to keep him around. And this goes to the bigger issue. Look, EJ and Duca, do I personally, does he have a look? I liked him in MLW.
He's your boy.
The small bits in there. Yeah, always
he's
did.
One of yours.
Absolute fucking unit. However, if he's not being used, then you don't keep him around. And that's the thing that AEW very rarely ever got, is that if you've got, and this is where I'm going to go back to the TV analogy, if you've got too many people on your screens, it's hard to care about any of them because you've just got too many people around the place. So they've needed to streamline that roster for the longest time. And they've been doing it. First of all, with the people who've all gone back to WWE. And I don't know if I've been particularly impressed with any of them who've gone back over there within sort of recent weeks. I mean, may talk a little bit about Rusev in a little bit, but they needed to let a few people go. They weren't using the Kingdom. There's no reason to keep them around. Yeah, I know they're mates with a couple of them. These are people who, let's face it, they'll find some sort of joy. You'll always say TNA or whatnot for them to sort of try their luck and see if it gets them into the NXT system. Or
I was told by you, and I'm not allowed to say that anymore. I've learned my lesson.
We're not allowed to say
TNA's
that.
great, It was also great. The Hardy Boys, big fan. Matt Hardy especially. What a wrestler.
Yeah. I know he's a lovely bloke, but fucking come on. I'm not accepting it.
Who, Matt Hardy? He's not.
No, he isn't. He never has been. But they've needed they've needed this to happen. And if it's just a case where it's contract expiry, then you don't renew the contract. They've had a run. That was always the way that wrestling was for the longest period of time. People were cycled in and out of territories because if they were hanging around too long, they were stale and you didn't know really what to do with them. And we've had loads of people who have not known what to do with them. And then you throw them on TV again and you go, oh, them. And then you wonder why they're about. But also because they're not wrestling and they're not wrestling house shows and regularly in lots of different companies and the indies and whatnot. There's a US indie scene that's screaming out to see if they can use guys like this. There are Japanese promotions who could do with a bit of a talent influx.
Triple H could do with him. He was going to sound the righteous at one point, wasn't he? He wanted them for the Wyatt Six. Like I say, everyone's got an individual story. There's always like misses, isn't there? Like, I think I agree with the overall. I agree. There's no loss at this point in losing some of that talent. But you could have done more with the Kingdom at one point. The Righteous could have had at least a lower level tag run rather than just kind of being used for one pay-per-view cycle and moved on. But speaking of that, do you see Wardlow joining them? Apparently, our boy Michael has been trademarking his own name this week.
Mickey Wardlow.
Yeah, or is it just that he's trying to throw us all off the scent because he's going to come in as MJF's tag team partner to go after the Hurt Syndicate, which is something that I've seen a lot of people fancy booking, but I'm not seeing a lot of people dotting the I's and crossing the T's on how that could possibly make sense. Although if I know MJF, he's probably staying. If that was happening, he'd be staying up at night every night, wouldn't he? Retconning that to find a way to make it all make sense. But it wouldn't shock me if Wardlow moved on, and it wouldn't. Again, that's another one where at this point, as we sit here, in May of 2025, absolutely. Wardlow's damaged goods in AEW. I think the day he turned up on TV wearing his tracky pants, looking like he'd nipped around the shop for a pack of fads and a bit of milk, was the day I think some of that star power dissipated. And obviously, the booking that came before it is the bigger reason for him losing a lot of his luster. But probably is somebody that could do with a change of scenery. Probably is someone who could go to a Noah or could do like maybe not in a work rate sense, but a Mike Santana and go somewhere and try and do something fresh,
Mm-hmm. Have you missed him? That would be the big point. Have you missed him on your TV? Have you noticed?
I didn't think he was good at the top. I was just too scared to say it, JP. I was a cowardly podcaster. I was sat here on podcast with you going, yeah, he is going to be the next Dave Bautista. Just thinking, in my heart of hearts, not really believing it. Thinking, I just think he's kind of got over for the story. I don't think there's as much here as people think there is. Maybe he's the new Ryback rather than the new Dave Bautista. Never said it out loud though, did I? So I'm not allowed to have the retcon point.
I would always.
Look good in the suit though, handsome bloke.
That was it. And as soon as they took him out of the suit and he just looked like just a bloke, then there was immediately a problem. Because when he looked smart and he was in the suit, he was a look. And he was also a look at a time when they didn't have many big guys around the place. Sure. I mean, they've got plenty now. And so he stood out in that regard. And because it was AEW and it was all built around fresh faces, you were like, actually, I'm kind of happy seeing another fresh face entering into the mix. I forget he's there at times. And then occasionally I come back to him and I go, oh, Wardlow, would it be interesting to have him back? And I think it's more just the idea of Wardlow than what Wardlow actually is at this point. It just feels like, if you're ever going to do anything with him, you've missed a chance. And we're several years away from that. So let him. There's going to
be people listening to this on Thursday morning. He's turned back up on Dynamite.
Yeah.
There's like some kind of mystery partner for MJ. I don't want to hope he's on the way out, but just for the accuracy of this story, I hope he's on the way out.
If he was having, I think the problem is, again, when it comes to the retconning of storylines, just because there is that association, that always feels like it's an easy get out of jail free card that you can have him turn up with MJF and you can just go, well, they've had a relationship before. They've just sorted things out behind the scenes, and now they're back together. Yeah. Like you can get away with that pretty much, but at the same time, I don't miss him, and so like lots of people, when they've actually gone from AEW, have I missed them? No. Have I missed Penta and Phoenix? No, they weren't really being used, so I didn't have any reason to care when they went.
At least not in interesting ways, or in ways
not in interesting ways.
To go back to that point. We go. Well, someone who's not going to miss us at our finally story when it comes to AEW JP. Have you got a spare £100 knocking down the back of the couch? That's my question to you.
No. That tends to have to go on exorbitant energy bills, something that you don't have to worry about in Thailand, sadly.
Luckily, I'm not paying for the aircon. Hopefully, people can't hear it. I've had to turn it on for a second because it's fucking hot. But we'll figure it out. John, background noise.
But yeah, $99.99. Very, good for that psychological reasoning of not putting down 100 down on there as well. And this is on our official website, where she posts the Monet mag.
This is Mercedes Monet. Yeah,
Mercedes.
Spend £100 to meet her.
My super fans have always been my super friends, and now they can text me directly and privately. This sounds like very much like another website. That's what the one I'm resembling on here as well. And what is it for the low price of £1,199.88 per year?
Oh my God, it's over a year. I thought it was just a one-off payment.
Constant contact with her. No, you're all right. Like, I mean,
why would she want that?
Well, given how she was at Doncaster, you could just fucking turn up there, pay 40 quid for a ticket, and then say hello. You probably have more of a chat with her there.
To be fair, she seemed nice. She seemed on form.
She seemed
all
right.
A nice chat with Connor.
Yeah. And she seemed, for someone who I'm assuming Doncaster was a culture shock for her, that seemed to be like, no.
This is going to be like OnlyFans, isn't it? Not that I know. I'm just saying, I'm pretty sure a lot of those OnlyFans girls aren't really the one having conversations with you lads. I'm sorry if I've broken kayfabe for you. It's probably the boyfriend who's got the phone, who's doing the admin work, who works for his girlfriend, who's answering your questions and sending you feed pics. I'm pretty sure it's going to be the same scenario.
That's it, isn't it? And for that kind of, I mean, Jesus Christ. I mean, she's
Moan AI.
Does she need the money?
Chris Elliott there.
Oh, great shout. But yeah, I don't think it's. I just don't think it's necessarily a good look. In some ways, you want stars to be unattainable. This makes them,
especially someone like her.
Yeah, you want her to be kind of like in the distant vision of like, no, you don't get to speak to her, and to go and see her is an event in and of itself. Where if she's asking what you've had for your tea, then you're thinking, what is this?
Well, I was going to say, Renee Dupree, that's a different Renee. Renee Paquette feels like she's going to ask her what she's had for tea. That's a negative. I was very positive on AEW because I'm just feeling the love right now with it. What is with those sit-downs to keep doing? Where Renee is acting like Mercedes as a babyface and laughing at all of her jokes and kind of just going, oh, you're funny, Mercedes. Anywho, and like Mercedes is like, yes, I'm going to kill you and like drown your baby. And Renee just starts laughing like it's the funniest thing anyone's ever said. Like, has she forgotten? Like, she's supposed to be like a baby-faced interviewer. I don't know. I made a tweet about Renee being too good for wrestling a few years ago. That definitely came back to bite me. She has not been. She's been exactly wrestling, is all I'll say, in her AEW run. Not saying not good enough for wrestling, but wrestling at that level. That's where she's been. But there we go. But yeah, I won't be spending the 100 quid on Mercedes. I've got that'll get me a month's worth of food where I am right now, JP, and that's an actual shoot based on my bills this last week or so. So it'll get me. I don't know how many of these it'll get me. I've got a nice. I'll just keep bringing the props out. Nice little Thai root beer here. 10 pence that cost me, JP.
10p.
What a country!
Fucking hellfire!
Power of me tonight,
mate. Can't get a bag of crisps for £1.20. Yeah? Like a chocolate bar, £1.20. That might get you in a room in a hotel, like for that kind of price. That's absolutely fucking.
I've got a couch over there. You're welcome to kip on it anytime, as long as
tempted to.
As long as Vicky doesn't mind. But on that note,
she's heard the prices and she's seen the weather and she was like, "Yeah, I'd like to go." That seems all right.
Hot. Bordering on too hot is all I'm saying, JP. But it's beautiful, way better than being in the UK. Only bordering on, not quite there yet. But on the is it a horrible segue to say? Speaking of people who need a couch to sleep on, yes. Maybe I'll edit that out to the public version. Nah, I'll leave it in. Don't get all bread or food on people's tables. We do need to talk some about the WWE releases that have happened obviously over the weekend. I think the time you were doing the weekend show, we only knew about the staff and not the wrestlers. Is that right? At that point,
there was a couple of little things about the staff. There was a lot of rumors it was going to be happening. We were expecting it. It's the time of year where it happens as well, so there's historical precedent. But yeah, didn't know list of these names.
Well, I mean, I suppose we'll go through the majority of the list. Yeah. There's some people I don't really have a take on, and some people I definitely have a take on. I was sad it was happening. I think it was the middle of the night UK time. I think as it was going on. I was following it along like it was transfer deadline day, and nobody in our group chat was awake to join in with it with me. Not that I was enjoying people losing their jobs, but anyway, not helping myself here. But yeah, obviously, as the Observer story as got here, the headline is of course Braun Strowman, probably the biggest quote-unquote star to be released, although Shayna Baysler and Dakota Kai probably at this point, I don't know if that's damn up think praise for Braun Strowman, and probably meet that equal billing. Katana Chance and Caden Carter are two of the bigger names on there as well, or at least the two bigger names from the news cycle over the last week or so. But obviously we can go through some of the made-up names that have been released also from NXT. Some stable called Gallus, JP. I'm not sure if you've ever heard of these lads. that. Yeah, who the fuck are Gallus? I believe is how the chant goes. Good fucking riddance to bad rubbish. How did that take so fucking long? That's one I'll celebrate, and I don't feel bad about it. At least for 2/3 of the weird fucking cunts. But we can get into them and whether we see them landing in the weird and wonderful world of MLW. But I don't know. Can we immediately just say Tony Khan now? Tony don't. For everybody on the list. Maybe with the except, I could see a Shayna Baysler if like the right opportunity came up, not right away, but like in 6 months or a year, there's a storyline reason to do it. Maybe you could do something around that horsewoman style. Maybe Dakota Kai to make up the numbers in the women's division, and that's only a maybe. Outside of that. Anybody? Truck driver Eddie Thorpe's your boy. Maybe you're hoping he gets brought in.
No.
Carlisle's own.
Carlisle's own Eddie Thorpe. Well, no, and there's actually a lad from Cumbria and Riley Osborne who's been released in there as well. Apparently, he wouldn't go to work at Evolve. Yeah. He was. I can remember him talking. I was like, he's from England. What the fuck's going on here? Why is he on the telly? So yeah, Eddie Thorpe,
Carl Fredericks one.
If you're going to ask where I think he would end up, I mean, it's whether or not would he go back to a New Japan, because he left then. It was kind of a bit of acrimony. Weirdly, if he'd stayed, he'd probably be in with a shout, fucking challenging for the IWGP title. To be brutally honest with you, but he didn't want to hang around, and he was involved not that long ago in like main event stories on NXT. So it seems kind of strange how we've got straight round to that. Now, there's always going to be a couple of those, churn, isn't there? Yeah, there
it's
is.
The most left hand doesn't know what the right hand's doing round the cuts, where it's like, hang on, I'm sure Sean likes them. It feels like Paul Levesque like them. Why are they gone? Yeah, he kind of fits into that category. Yeah, maybe an ROH or Impact, as Dylan says here, I could see happening. I mean, Dakota Kai, is that an easy one? Is she? She's someone who I think you rated before she ended up in the WWE system. I could see I think if you're playing lightly unlikely, maybe Shayna's the most likely to end up in AEW long term. But I think the most likely to immediately jump, I think Dakota Kai.
Yes, I think so. Issue is she's very injury prone. That appears to be what is happening there. She gets a knock, and it has happened quite a bit. But in terms of being,
so you're saying she's for Charleston?
Yeah, she is. But not as
we want him to come home,
getting red card. Yeah, that's always going to be the problem for it. Could they? I mean, and there's always going to be more of an arms race for the women wrestlers. That's all. I think that's a natural kind of thing into the mix.
You just always need bodies, don't you? And that's more to do with the state of women's wrestling booking for the majority of the time in North American wrestling, even if it has been better this year. They always need bodies. They always need fresh faces because the other faces have often been squandered. Is kind of what tends to happen. I could see that. Braun Strowman, I think. I mean, unless controlling narratives coming back, I actually, again, you know me, I don't feel bad for the people mostly in these scenarios. There's some people I feel bad for. I think like Sean Ross Sapp did a post, and I understood where he was coming from. That like it's like in the pandemic, we kept hearing stories of people who'd like uprooted their whole lives, moved to Florida and on a WWE visa, and then lost the job in a pandemic and didn't know what the fuck they were going to do. Like, we can all kind of I can definitely empathize with going to another country and maybe something like that happening would be a terrible thing to happen. I think there's a lot of people like that in this list who visas are dependent on, and obviously in Trump's America nothing is guaranteed. But Braun probably voted for him, so fuck him. No, I think Braun Strowman's one where I almost feel like I don't feel as strong as I did the first time. The first time they sacked him, I thought that was nonsense. I thought there was no. I thought he was. It was him and Bray Wyatt, wasn't it, in the same round of cuts? And it was like, I mean, Bray Wyatt definitely sells enough merch to keep his contract. Like, that was a no-brainer for me. Whatever I thought of him, if we're just analysing it as a business, like, absolutely, he's someone who it never made justifiable sense to get rid of. And Braun, I felt the same way. They spent so long kind of getting him over as like this, quasi main event, like top level guy, not quite a replacement for Brock Lesnar, but you know what I mean? The big guy who's upper mid card / main event who can, be there or thereabouts. To just drop him like that didn't make sense at the time. different kettle of fish now, a bit more broken down. Although maybe that makes him more sympathetic, that he's got the Tanahashi elbows for knees and he's still on Raw and SmackDown putting people over, helping get over different big men across the board. Jacob Fatu being among them. Maybe you'll feel peeved about that, but if again, it's like the AW conversation. If I was dad in the world WWE fan like a Matty, would I miss him now? Don't know.
That's the problem. When he came back, he didn't feel special. He doesn't feel special at all. And there's other bigger giants in there in the mix, like Omos, who I think they should be doing something with if you're going to have a giant around the place. And AEW have their own giant and Big Bill, who is over with that audience and underutilized and should be being used a lot more. And Andy brings
no arguments at all for Braun and AEW.
No, there is, and he should have, if he saved some money, made plenty of cash, and he's going to be charging a fortune wherever he goes. And it's just like, is he worth it at a time when AEW in particular have been quite smart about actually we need, like, just in terms of just general good business sense of cutting down that wage bill. How many people do we have around the place? We don't need this many. What value is he really going to add into the mix? And is he going to come in? And let's face it, with a lot of ex-WWE guys that we've seen, they come in not with a great attitude. Do they want that? Do they want that grief when they've got their own guys and they've got a roster there? And the signings of like a Kevin Knight and that sort of younger talent, that's definitely the way that they should be going for the most part. It's slightly different with the women. If they had a tag division for the women, I think that would even then make that a bit more interesting, but it would also require them to be getting a lot more matches, whether it be on Dynamite, Collision, and there's always a few more on Collision, and on the pay-per-views as well. So that's why you'd see Dakota Kai. In terms of Shayna Baysler, rather than being MMA horsewoman, I just think at some point you could bring her in as being an opposing figure to neutralize Marina Shafir. You've got history there, and then you just go, okay, Marina Shafir tries to interfere in a match, Shayna Baysler comes out, and they have a brawl to the back, and you go, oh, okay, like, that makes sense from a storyline perspective.
By the time it could happen at a point where we all forget she was even in WWE in the first place, I think that's all right.
And she hasn't seemed motivated, but for me, there's always been something there. And she's getting older. I couldn't tell you exactly how old she is, but I'm guessing she's around 40 at this point. So there's a very limited.
I think she's a bit young. I think she's late 30s, which I mean, we wouldn't be saying that about a male wrestler, would we? Most of the male wrestlers are in the prime at that point.
But I would be more thinking, if you're going to go for her, you kind of go for her now. Like, it's not something you want to wait around like a kind of like a few years. She might enjoy going back on the indies for a bit. She's certainly got like as much of a name as any of the women on there. Even I know Dakota Kai has been involved in sort of a lot more high profile storylines, but Shayna Baysler would be one that I would be saying Tony, yes. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, she was doing MMA even into her early 30s, I thought. So if you're bring her in now, it doesn't need to be for a particularly long deal, but I think you can get some value from her, if nothing else, for just being a counterpart to Marina Shafir. Katana
Chance,
like
the Kagan Carter, Katana Chance, Cora J, Gigi Dolan, and then while we're talking the women, any place for any of them, or are they all too lazy? Is that what we've learned according to Meltzer's getting blamed for this very clearly. I'm pretty sure Meltzer talks to Paul Levesque now, or at least he talks to somebody who's in Paul Levesque's ear, or Paul Levesque is in their ear. Very much the WWE PR is being put out, hasn't it? That some of these wrestlers aren't pushing them. It's weird. Papa H wants to have his cake and eat it too. He wants to be like, oh, if you get in, it's not the way it used to be. It's all fake. It's all an act. And if you get injured, you should take time off. And you want time with your family, you should take it because you've only got one life to live. And then he's like a meme, isn't he? It's like the middle-aged dad going, these kids don't work hard. I used to work down the coal mines there, just sat at home, working from home, taking calls from in call centers. That's not real work. That's not proper stuff. Sorry, I'm just channeling my uncle. I feel like he's just showed up to work one day grumpy and gone, they don't try hard enough. They're pissing about. You're gone. I feel like that's maybe happened to a couple of these girls.
Yeah,
with no names named, obviously, but we've seen who's come in defense for themselves.
I mean, this is what, like, someone like Jakara Jackson, I've never, maybe it's just me in the limited times I've seen her. Like, what has she ever?
I didn't know that was one of the women. I didn't know who that was.
Exactly.
Is it?
I couldn't tell you. Couldn't tell if she lived next door to me. That it's like, oh god, you're in WWE, were you? No fucking idea. Do you mind keeping the noise down?
I'm assuming Danny Palmer's a woman because it ends in I rather than N and Y.
I think so.
A bit like Danny Garcia and Danny Garcia. That's how you know which one's which.
Oh god, yeah, it is, isn't it? Yeah, Danny Palmer. Some of these will just leave wrestling. I always think with some of the WWE Performance Center people, they'll just leave wrestling. There's just like they'll have done it, they'll have tried it. They might have made some decent money. They might do some.
But it begs the question, doesn't it? Like a Cora Jade, isn't she like fucking 12? Like I know Punk loved her, didn't he? But like, if you're WWE, why sign someone that young and then not stick it out? Like, because like, for someone like her, at such a young age, she hit the peak of working for WWE and now she's out. Like, is she really gonna like, you know, sink or swim on the indies, or is she just gonna disappear now? If anything, it's a lesson of maybe wait a while before. I mean, that's usually the rule, isn't it? Usually you used to wait a while before signing people when they were too young or look too young or were too young. But maybe that's just a rule for the men.
Can I be honest? I get Cora Jade and Sky Blue mixed up all the fucking time. Like I really do.
Phil doesn't.
That's terrible. No, Phil doesn't. Phil's very much on the case with this stuff. Cora Jade could be someone that is sort of sticks around because he always got the impression she kind of likes wrestling, and she is young enough, and it could follow in the pattern of
she's 24,
she goes away and she comes back into the mix. Yeah, God, incredibly like. I
remember being 24. I was a fucking idiot. I didn't know anything. I don't know anything now, but at least I know I don't know anything.
God no. But they'll have made more money than we ever would have made in our lives. By that, I say that they're in NXT. They're not exactly sort of like raking in $500,000 a year. Gigi, I saw it mentioned earlier on Gigi Dolan TNA. She's been on TNA TV, and that will be the route I think for the ones who want to stay in wrestling. They'll want to go to TNA, if only to stay visible to WWE. They fit nicely into the mix. They're not going to be. How many of the women, for example, are going to be interested in doing tours of Stardom and Marigold? And Tokyo Joshi Pro. There might be one or two, and I think they should do for the sake of trying.
There's only one or two spots, isn't there? You can't, like, you know, not everyone can go, can they? Not everyone can go there.
Stardom's cleaning house at the minute as well, so there's probably as much opportunity to get into there at this stage as there ever was.
Do you see big opportunities for Wolfgang and the lads, for Wolfie and the boys, for the Gallus lads? Is there out there? Does anyone care? Like, that is one of the biggest mysteries in wrestling, isn't it? Like, how? I mean, I guess we know the answer to how they eked out another year is that they got in Dwayne's pocket, and that might be the reason they, you know, the little civil war that's going on in the background image that you can't quite make out is Paul and Dwayne having a little back and forth. Maybe maybe they're a victim of that, but if anything, they've been a beneficiary for the last year or so because they trained The Rock for a WrestleMania and it got them another year goodwill. How did they even last that long though? Like, why did Shawn Michaels book them regularly on TV for a while? Like, what? They look like shit. They wrestle like shit. As people are shit, like, again, at least 2 out of the 3. How did they last that long in the company that you would have never bet on it? Like, you would never bet on it. Like, even like a Noam Dar, I would have been like, yeah, you've got more chance of getting a run, and I guess he got one too. But you know what I mean? It's just like, I never saw it for them. Like, I don't think anyone did, and anyone who saw them on TV, it's not like they got on TV and it was like, oh, you know what? There's actually something there. Not even that, you know, they weren't over. They weren't good. Like, how did they manage it?
I have no idea because they weren't good talkers. They were terrible in ring. I remember those. I'm still scarred by those NXT UK main events with
that epic with Joe Coffey.
Just dreadful in there. They didn't. Where do I see them? Progress. Will I be watching them? No. So it's like like that's the kind of stuff I expect them to do.
Respected veterans. Okay, do you need 3 of them? Like 3 of the hairy cunts? Like, why? Send them back to fucking Wolfman's Pub. I don't care.
Yeah, like that's it. Like, where would they be at this point? I mean, the problem's going to be if they're going to want to remain in the States, but it's a difficult political climate. Trying to get renewal of visas if you're not in a major wrestling company is going to be willing to subsidize it for you and countersign it, then it's going to be really fucking tricky. How are they going to be able to do it? Go back to
Progress will go another $500,000 in the red light to pay for it.
That's more for them. Like, because there never has been.
Did you see Briley and the lads making fun of that? Like,
did.
I'm not sure we're supposed to be seeing that, but a couple of the ex-Progress owners having a good old laugh at the current two mates' expense. Something like, we managed to never go $500,000 in the red, did we, lads? Enjoyed seeing that. Thanks. Whoever, mysterious person who sent me that screenshot. That is a real screenshot from, I think, Facebook, maybe LinkedIn. Don't know what Smallman's on these days.
And the funny thing with all of that stuff as well, I mean, having seen the photos from Super Strong Style 16, which used to be a fucking event that we would always go to, and it'd be tough to get tickets for as well. Like all those bits where people were stood at the back, that's always the bits I go to. It's never like looking at the seating chart and looking at people sat down in chairs. There's no one in the corners. Remember what a tight squeeze it used to be? There's no one like there for that. So it's never those kind of like big sellouts that, you know, if they're doing half of the numbers of what they did, you know, that's not happening there at all. But that's
Riley played the blinder. He also sold it to the cunts, you know, so probably deserves some of the blame, but played the blind. Always liked him. Always got on with him. What a bloke.
At least now with the AAA news, that there's probably this idea of there is a buyer because global localization is very much back in vogue in this version of WWE, and I'd just be like, please buy us.
All it needs is for AEW to announce a formal partnership with RevPro. They'd be right over here, fucking throw the money around, wouldn't they? We got it. We got another. We get Crown Jewel London.
I guarantee you get some sort.
We get WrestleMania,
RevPro at Forbidden Door, and all of that stuff. What you're going to end up getting, you're going to end up hearing some deal about Progress, because as night follows day, we saw it obviously AAA and CMLL in there as well. There's another name I'd like to mention of the releases, who I think he'd be going back to Germany, Oramensa, because obviously he was in WXW. I'm struggling to remember what his previous name was, but he always seemed somewhat decent. I know he was in that metaphor thing for the longest period of time, and him going back to WXW is probably good, and he's probably hungry enough to kind of want it, and is decent enough in ring. The thing that Gallus simply aren't, and they don't have any of those kind of aspects in him. Oliver Carter in there. So, like, he would be one who I would expect to possibly see around here. And if he does WXW, there's a chance he can end up in Rev Pro and do something there as well. So, yeah, like, outside of that, people like Javier Bernal, I've got no clue. I just confuse him with that bloke who plays at West Ham. It does feel like I made him up. And that just might be the way I go for false names.
It's like an episode of Black Mirror. JP created all these names, and then all of a sudden they existed in real life. I don't know what the punchline to this episode of Black Mirror is, but I feel like we're living through it right now.
The punchline is me doing a wrestling podcast talking about entirely fake people and being trapped into it. Yeah. And just talking about how great they are. And they just made up fucking names entirely. It'll be like that episode of Black Mirror from the latest series, the ones with all the little fucking weird things that happen. You know, the tech one that's related.
Oh, I haven't seen that one yet. I'm still catching up. I will be this week.
I won't say any more. I'll leave it alone. Then it
ends up at the UK Performance Centre. Who knew? What a weird. Charlie Brooker knows what he's doing. He knows how to write a bit of TV.
Well, he likes Raw, doesn't he? So maybe he was going there to get some ideas next time round. So yeah,
either that or he's an MMA fighter, one or the other. But there we go.
I'm surprised there isn't actually more main roster releases, because I think
maybe
this is the other bigger thing. Because I know Shotzi's been contracts up.
Yeah, again, like released. The AEW one's not renewed. Again, I'm not going to morally get into it, but like it's more to do with the bad contracts the wrestlers sign. I can't believe we're, at this point, and it's like footy, isn't it? Like, you see your deal out, like the amount of football play, the power in football and real sports is in the players' hands, isn't it? And they could sit at home and take their fat wage until the end of the contract if the team doesn't want to use them anymore, or they could be bought out in wrestling and just be like, pack your bags, you're going back to Europe, see ya. And like that's it. Visa's cancelled too. Trump says get out. It's a shitty thing. It is, and I think it could be better, but I guess there's a lot of reasons it isn't.
I tell you, with Shotzi contract up, I can't. I mean,
no problem.
TNA, MLW, no problem with that at all. Just reckless. She just seemed like she was on a mission to try and like break her neck, doing so much stuff. Wasn't going to improve. She's a look, is what she is. And don't get me wrong, it's a marketable look, but it's nothing more than that. Because when it comes to the in-ring stuff, which is kind of important for the whole reason that they're actually there, there's nothing there.
Well, speaking of WWE, and while we talk, what they are spending the money on right now, they're going to be sending some talent out for, again, always planned, TripleMania on June the 15th, obviously along with TNA. Obviously they're sending over the Hardy Boys, and is he WWE superstar? Joe Hendry is are going over there to add to the list of NXT names and lower card wrestlers that WWE are sending over. But the other big news coming out of the AAA relationship right now as well, JP, is and a lot of the clickbait websites ran with this. Hat tip to our friends over at What Culture for at least being careful with the wording of their version. Alberto Del Rio being among a few people who've been given WWE contracts, not been signed by WWE. Right. Following the AAA takeover. This is coming from Ernesto Ocampo, Mexican reporter, who listed off the people who he believes have signed WWE quote-unquote deals. Alberto Del Rio is the one that stands out, unfortunately. We thought might have seen the back of the cunt. But Hyoda Dr. Wagner, Hyoda, obviously Vikingo, La Parca, he'll be dropping the Hiho bit, La Hydra, Lady Flower, Lady Marvilla, and Nino Hamburger, of course, being a very WWE signing, are all the ones who have these contracts. Meltzer's been reporting that they are new contracts rather than WWE assuming the AAA deal. There is a bit of weirdness going on, isn't there, right now with the AAA relationship, in that WWE and AAA have still going through the paperwork, and it's going to take a couple of months before it all gets signed off for complications, and I think that's to do with AAA's murky ownership. And I imagine how you can literally imagine like the physical, it's physical contracts, isn't it, JP? In a physical drawer in a sweaty office somewhere in Mexico, and like there's somebody like stood in the back burning them before WWE can see them. Like, who knows what is in all that paperwork? But it's I assume it's messy and it's having to be worked through. But yeah, WWE obviously putting some proper contracts in front of some of these wrestlers, and Del Rio unfortunately being one of them.
I was convinced they did it for Del Rio. I'd be, what are the length of these deals? I would
just because
he
got the belt, though. It's like no one cares. Like, just AAA could just say, you know what, Vikingo is actually the mega champion, and he always was, and you dreamt it. And I feel like it'd be all right. I think it'd be fine.
Exactly, and I do think with this, it's like, is he worth getting on board? No, he's terrible. He's terrible in ring. He was never great.
He's shit too many, as well as being a cunt. He's like Gallus, same thing.
And there isn't really a whole lot of benefit from sort of bringing him in. You asked me about Vikingo and Hyoda Dr. Wagner Jr. Absolutely. I think there's definite value there, like particularly for Dr. Wagner Jr. because he has that kind of size. Vikingo, it becomes more of a health thing. It's like if you give him time to properly rest up, don't overexpose him. Like, unfortunately, he did when he cashed in on the relative like sort of name value that he had, which you didn't blame him for, given the kind of like the money involved in there. So those two guys are the absolute no-brainers. La Parca, from a nostalgia point of view, this is the former LA Park who's gone back to La Parca, because obviously the La Parca who replaced LA Park, he died.
Oh, I knew that. Sorry, I'm not surprised by that. I'm just surprised. Is that the case? I didn't know that had happened. I thought they recast the role. Did they not? It was a new wrestler in the La Parca.
Is it? I know I've seen a new version of Hayabusa around the place. I just assumed they gave the name back to him, because I could
Black Mirror episode's getting very weird.
Oh, there is, isn't? I could see a nostalgia aspect for going down that route, and it's a good act, and it fits in with the lucha theme. This is the thing. We're talking about guys who really tick those lucha boxes, which is kind of what they should want out of this deal. Alberto doesn't really tick those boxes. He hasn't got a lucha style, and he hasn't got like a lucha flavor to him. The three women wrestlers, La Hiedra, Lady Flamer, Lady Maravilla, they also tick those boxes. Nina Hamburguesa is just a comedy wrestler. Like, for the longest time, that's what he did. He was just a massive bloke who did
like super porky, and he'll end up on SmackDown.
Yeah, and he ticked a box for that, but not too much else. Outside of that, you're really struggling. If WWE wanted to, if they wanted to raid CMLL, they could. And I don't think CMLL would try and combat it, because they might look at it as they would be able to cherry pick the next stars. They'd be able to get loan of people from AEW and they might just not. Why enter into the arms race? Why spend a fortune on guaranteed contracts? You don't have to. The one you have to kind of try and keep is Mystico, who isn't likely to go back to WWE because he had a terrible experience there, and he's a lot older now. But yeah, these deals. I mean, Alberto feels like. I mean, he's always a hop, skip, and a jumping away from fucking the whole thing up. So if he did it again, would you be surprised? Nah, not at all. I'd be kind of expecting him to do it. So just get the belt off him.
I think he'd enjoy sacking him again.
Yeah, I think they would do. I think they would enjoy doing that again as well. It's like, get the belt off him at TripleMania, put it on Vikingo, and then just say, we're not keeping you around, mate. Let go.
Huh?
So,
Connor's been doing some live Googling on this and has figured out that, it is the original. He's back doing La Parka. Updates his Wikipedia page for us, Connor. I was just triple checking that. Still says he's LA Park. This is breaking news. Interesting stuff. Proper lucha reporting you get on this podcast.
It really is, isn't it?
AEW and WWE podcast.
Who needs lucha blog?
But definitely not that.
Or super luchas,
You definitely need super lucha blog. Ask them. Yeah. They'll, the Cubs fan will tell you what the legitimate story is.
He knows.
News to me. There you go. Yeah. Speaking of WWE's international commitments, obviously, they've announced as well. So the advertising when I was half awake one morning watching Raw, Crown Jewel Perth. I feel like if you were getting you'd be like, if you're from Perth, you'd be like, oh yeah, this is cool. We're getting a WWE pay-per-view. Like, what's it called? It's got the Blood Money name. Like, I mean. Is that are they literally relating that? I was about to say, do they have a royal family? And then I realized, yes, they do. R1, like, is that what this is? It's a Commonwealth thing. Like, why is this called Crown Jewel Perth?
I don't understand. It makes no sense. I did see something came up on my YouTube feed where I saw who was it? Grayson Waller and Rhea Ripley were on doing the rounds on Aussie TV when they announced the deal. And it being kind of a big
This is in
deal.
October, isn't it?
Yeah.
I don't know if you're getting it up. SmackDown October 10th, Crown Jewel Perth October 11th, and Raw October 13th. Yeah. I mean, they're just recycling random names, aren't they? Like now, it's like Clash at the Castle. Oh, is there a big hill with a building on it? Yeah, you usually got a castle. We'll call it that. Like, literally, like, it's what they're doing. There's a castle, like, just outside of Liverpool. We can do a Clash at the Castle there. Like, honestly, strangest fucking thing.
It is, and they're not doing the stadium. They're not doing the big stadium, the Optus Stadium that they have in Perth as well. These are all going from the RAC Arena. So you got your SmackDown, then Crown Jewel Perth, then Raw, which is, I don't know how that fits in with you time-wise. It'd be on in the early evening for you. Because it'd be on
for me,
first thing in the morning. So it's all right for you. It sort of ticks over.
Always like Crown Jewel. Great show. Those Saudi shows would be great too, actually, to be fair. Not that I want to watch them.
You would
Bad Blood Perth. No Mercy Perth, yeah. What are other old pay-per-view names you could bring back? That's be good for this.
Over the Limit.
Fully Loaded.
Yeah. I'd be
Fully Loaded Perth.
Starcade Perth. They'd be the ones that you'd want to throw into the mix on there as well. But these are actually, as it was
Good Friends, Better Enemies, Perth.
Oh God.
Coming soon to Benno and Hampton.
But these are also tying in with part of the deal that TKO have, including a UFC fight night and a UFC pay-per-view. That's according to John and Way. Congratulations, Way.
Congratulations, Ray. He's been off work for 3 weeks for a better reason than I have been off work. Very good. Good to see him back on post this week.
Oh yeah, and he straight back into the belly of the beast reviewing Raw.
Following your lesson, mate.
It is.
You're his dad idol.
He's got a little bit of catching up to do, sadly, or he just probably won't bother with that race. Fuck it, I'll leave them all to him. But yeah. Them doing more shows in Australia, you expect them to do it. That's very much a territory they've kind of taken over, and AEW blew a lot of stuff when it came to a lot of the Grand Slam stuff. Let's face it. So there's if AEW are going to go back,
only the ring, and I remain a truth on that. I'm on Filthy Tom Lawler's side.
The toy ring they were in. Yeah, this is
WB Knifey Spooning. That could work.
I'd happily go out there as well. World's most isolated city, Perth. I'm sure I said that the first time they went out there. Oh yeah, because there's WA, then there's the fucking outback, and it's like the world's 7th biggest landmass or something like that. So you just got like this virtual fucking desert in the middle of everything in there, and a lot of mining that goes on.
Aussie Graps is back on Grapple, everyone.
Get in. As the way it should be, the way Christ intended. But yeah, they've made that play for Australia, and because they're into their MMA, and because they got people like Volkanovski and plenty of other sort of UFC stars around the place as well, they do like that's a market they take very seriously and have basically taken ownership of.
Speaking of WWE, other quick news notes before we move on to other matters elsewhere. Vince McMahon, and it is still a WWE story, as he is currently battling the WWE shareholders. This could be interesting if it ends up getting something happening out of it. In Trump's America, probably not.
Yeah, this is So the shareholders accusing Vince McMahon of withholding evidence in the TKO merger. The court could force compliance in there as well. These were filings made on Tuesday and Wednesday of the last week. This is in Delaware, because that's normally how a lot of these things work. Delaware, Connecticut, those kind of states is where they go to on there. And Brandon Thurston did some reporting on this for WrestleNomics in there, and he said that he's resisting or delaying full compliance with discovery in the ongoing WWE shareholder lawsuit with the TKO merger, which was all of these minority shareholders who just weren't made aware that this deal was taking place and were just more or less strong-armed into it in there.
Because it was a job for the boys thing, wasn't it? It was because Vince wanted the friendly face of UFC / Endeavor to take over so he could stay in position. That's exactly what, like the AAA paperwork, that's exactly what any paperwork or any evidence they pull is going to say. That's the reason he's holding back on nothing to give it, because I'm certain, knowing that cunt and the text messages we've seen from him so far, he's probably literally texting Ari, I always want to call him Ari Gold, Ari Emanuel, like, fucking, you can have it on the cheap, mate, if you keep me in. He's that stupid. The texts probably exist. That's probably exactly what happened. Yeah. And the reason this is big news is because obviously that's not, might not have been the most money they could have made. Obviously the dirty secret is Saudi were interested, weren't they? And Saudi could have paid more money, and it would have been, massive moral issues aside, a bigger win for shareholders, and they didn't go that route because Vince wanted to keep his position. Like, that's very clearly what's happened, isn't it? It's just a case of, I think, Vince trying to drag his feet with not giving the evidence so that it doesn't actually get found out that is very much the case.
That's it, isn't it, as well? And it's obviously going on as the Janelle Grant story is going on at the same time as well, which...
Yeah, doctors suing the Ancalis, isn't it? I saw that story.
That's right, yeah. And I think for all of this, his whole policy is to just drag this out through the courts, drag it out through litigation, force a ton of like the lawyer fees, and make it effectively so expensive so you can force a settlement behind closed doors. It's not so subtle, but it's the way that these billionaires seem to work in the States there as well. So it'll be interesting with the shareholders, but I think unfortunately, given the way the Trump administration is, their attitudes to business, and there's a lot of stuff about Trump selling selling fucking meme coins and other stuff like that on the crypto market, of which he's made a billion himself personally.
Billions, fucking hell.
They do not give a shit.
No, it's not his company anymore. It's his son's company. He just makes the money. It's fine, JP. It's not an abuse of power.
Oh, I mean, it's just fucking absolutely shocking there in the meantime. May need to refresh because for some reason I've gone dark as I've tried to go onto the next screen there. So bear with me for 2 seconds, Benno.
Well, we didn't have much left. I'll take us to the final WWE stories. I would like to talk some Naito and New Japan. Raw happened. I don't know if JP's got more to say than I do. I genuinely thought they were going to do the title change. I genuinely thought the Seth Rollins stable that is not getting over whatsoever as a heel stable was going to be solidified with Seth Rollins as world champion. We're all going to get to laugh at main event Jay having one of the shortest world title runs in WWE history. Sadly not. They just did the smash angle with Punk, which didn't even need the bell to ring for it to be a DQ, and it ended. And that was Raw this week. I watched it today. I really had no other big takes on it, unfortunately. This week I am staying in tune with it. I am trying to keep it to date. SmackDown was a hard guy. I honestly think like the balloon feels a bit off the rose with them. I just think the fans are doing their own thing. Triple H's stories aren't quite connecting the way they normally do. You've even got people like Roman Reigns throwing shots in little interviews that he's doing. John Cena's working Randy Orton again. Maybe that's all it is. Maybe that's all it takes. John Cena and Randy Orton having a program is enough for me to just go, you know what? I'm going to take a bit of a wide berth from WWE right now because I couldn't get through SmackDown this weekend because Raw was on and it was better, but didn't really interest me too much unless you've got any big takeaways from it.
Not really. A couple of things where I watched Rusev, and I just thought already you kind of already seem like a bloke to me, much in the same way that I thought with Aleister Black and obviously Andrade.
Oh, he is just a bloke on him, Aleister Black.
Just a bloke. Yeah.
Naito less so, but yeah.
It's like, okay, so you're doing shit with Alpha Academy. Is this going to result in him doing something that's strong upper mid card? Would they put him in that?
He came back in an angle where he kicked the Miz badly. Like, that just sums up where he's slotting back in WWE, and that's where he belongs. He's a fucking fake hard man mid-carder with ideas above his station. I usually like wrestlers who take themselves too seriously. There's just something about him that rubs me the wrong way. I'm a hypocrite. I love Loki for all the reasons I hate Malachi / Aleister Black, but what can you do? We all have our lines in the sand. Miro, I'm still willing to give time. But I think he'll be happier being a lower mid-carder in WWE than he was ever happy being an upper mid-carder in AEW. I think he's just wired that way.
I'm not also bullish on. Like, I didn't think Julia. They kept on trying to do the same finish twice on Io Sky when they ran the interference after Roxanne Perez, Io Sky, and it just didn't seem to work. And I get the idea that they're wanting to call them up, and there was stories about calling them to and Stephanie Becerra up to the main roster, which they kind of should do. I think that bit of a refresh in the women's division, because we're very close to the point of cycling out that first group of effectively the original 4 horsewomen, that we are at the point where the 3 who are there are coming to the tail end of their careers and their major runs, and they need to put them in. I think Matty said this best with Julia, who I have seen have some good matches, but they're a few years ago. The idea of her is really good in WWE. I just don't think it particularly works. Roxanne Perez, I get, because she's so young. And there's so much that they've got kind of invested, and she very much buys into it, and someone who can be around long term. I'm just not convinced Julia.
Really? I think Stephanie Becerra are the two, and Julia. I think she's getting better. It's because of the sex move in it. But that's outside of that, though, she just does seem like she's connecting a little bit more. I think it'll happen with Julia, though. I think more time on the main roster. I think she'll get there. She's too good for it not to happen. I think for it, but there we go. Yeah. That's it. And and finally, story from WWE before we move on, JP.
Yes, we have, and you've handily written it down here as I'm trying to get it up on the screen. Nick Khan is a sociopath, and he very much is a sociopath. That's not a surprise.
Where's the 2 cunts behind us there? Jesus Christ!
Oh my God, this bloke on here. They won't hire people who use out of office replies, because God forbid you ever have a holiday and you don't want to answer a fucking pointless email from one of these gobshites there as well. This is him being interviewed by Sports Business Journal in there as well. And the rules of their hiring policy: never hire people who do out of office replies in there. Number 2, when you do have a vision for something and you're going after it, if it's not going well, you have to have people who can work with you, who can tell you that. And it's just like, oh, really? Because this is a company that's responded very well to criticism historically, isn't it? Always responded really well.
Is this an American thing? Because I feel like, I'm on a career break from my job right now. And honestly, if a boss texted me, I'd get a jump scare. That'd be normal. It'd be like how's things going, Richard? It'd probably a nice text. How are things out in Thailand? Looking forward to having you back in April. If I go back in April, we'll see what happens. But it's a very American thing, isn't it? That you're on your holidays and you're still answering emails, or your boss gets mad at you because you took 2 weeks off and you didn't check your emails the whole time. I can't even imagine even considering it, even looking in the first place. But apparently that's the culture to do. I bet you Nick Khan feels the same way about work from home. Get yourself to the office, you'll be more productive. No, you won't, mate. You'll be in the tea room making a coffee half of the day, and then the other half of the day you'll be going for pisses, and then the other little bit of the day that you've got left, you might spend an hour doing work, whereas you could have done that hour at home. And then being quite humble and doing your own thing all day. Who knows? Maybe I'm speaking from experience, but yeah, looks like a cunt, acts like a cunt, talks a cunt. All this
sounds like Vince.
The young boy at WrestleMania 9. Do you think he felt like this back then when he was collecting tickets? Money changes him, man.
Well, it's probably that time he spent with Linda McMahon collecting tickets, isn't it? According to that documentary there as well. I mean, this is the thing with him. He sounds like Vince McMahon. And his attitude towards
Connor's got a good point here. I didn't care about my job, so I didn't set my out of office, and my boss would get mad at me for not setting it. I feel like setting it is actually more responsible. I'm with you, Connor. I agree.
Yeah, Like I quite often have never set it over holidays. I just don't. I won't look at my emails and I won't fucking reply to them. It'll just be
I
like,
set it. I set it because I was taking a year off. That's the one time I've actually set it, which might be longer. But outside of that, weird.
But then they've got an odd idea to like paid family leave and stuff like that. Those corporate practices. You live your job, and that's what very much he does, which is fine when you're a billionaire he does, and you're worth a small fortune.
Eating at the best restaurants, flying on private jets, having a great time. Not the same when you're the admin boy, is it? Or the admin girl, or whatever you might be.
Fucking ridiculous. Prick.
Well, on that note, some other non-WWE and AEW stuff to chat, JP. Classic spot like this, plenty of stuff to get. I should take 3 weeks off more often. Just let it build up, and we'll just come back. That used to be the old schedule, didn't it? When we were with Joe, we just record whenever we fancied it. BW was the same when it was British Audio Wrestling. Martin would just message us and go, "Fancy doing a podcast on Thursday?" Be like, "Yes, sound." And it might be 6 weeks to the next one. It might be a week to the next one. We didn't know how we had it, JP. No. I prefer it this way. It's going to keep you sane doing these podcasts 3 times a week. Been a very, very fortunate and happy position to be doing it. But anywho, we also have officers on. New Japan. I did catch some of it over the weekend, as I said. Well, obviously the 2 days of shows were on a very, very good time for me. I think I'd say the biggest story, and I had it penciled in our notes before the shows even happened. We need to talk about Naito's New Japan exit. And then literally I fell asleep in front of the telly, actually, and I woke up and it was post-match. And it was just kind of like, this is weird. Are they going to talk? Are they going to talk? Are they going to talk? No, they just wandered to the back. And Naito just kind of seemed a bit awkward. And obviously he came back out again later in the night as well. But you could kind of feel like him and Bushi didn't really 100%, not that they didn't want to be there, but they weren't playing ball in that, like, they knew that you could tell, like, there's something beneath the surface. They know it's bullshit, or they at least think it's bullshit. Maybe knows it a little bit strong. And yeah, it's not this happy, going off to the sunset moment. It is just, they're not being pushed out, but it's not the most ceremonious of exits. Yeah, quite a low-key exit for Naito there this weekend, and yeah, I don't know where we see them landing, but yeah, him and Bushi got to say their goodbyes, I guess, to an extent.
I still can't see anywhere outside of Japan. That's where, and like I say, very, very low key. I mean, the match I didn't bother watching. I just watched the entrances.
There's not much to it. There's nothing special about it. It's just a match. He wears his t-shirt the whole way through because, of course, Naito is going to do that on the way out.
Oh yeah, I made mention of that when talking about best and worst ring gear. And people wearing t-shirts while wrestling, and that's part of the issue for it. Don't get me wrong, it did.
Yeah, so take that into Kingston.
I looked at the crowds for these, and it was just under 3,000 for night 1 of Dontaku, and just over 5,000 for night 2, which you would expect because they are a big stable historically within New Japan. But that was never a good at what the argument I always had was. But this is a promotion built a lot around work rate, and he wasn't up to it anymore. So were you going to keep him around? He was a guy who needed to wrestle on very sparing occasions on big shows, and it seemed to me that was, so he wasn't going to get paid as much. I see him ending up in Noah because they would need as much juice as they can get, and they've got a top line champion in Azawa who fits in with a feud with Naito in terms of their personalities and having that kind of like slightly like standoffish, like rebelling against the sort of status quo in Japan that they could go with. But like Naito going, I mean, it forces their hand in terms of going with new people and creating new stars like it should do. It's not necessarily what we are going to be getting at the next couple of shows. Yeah, but
in their own way,
they are trying to. And there was always he always felt like, even still to this day, like he was always this break open in case of emergency. You need a champion. You think he's going to draw some, put Naito on there. But that's not good. That's not good business. It's not good long term. You've got to think about what is the long term effect. You can deal with like a nostalgia crowd, but you're not going to draw anyone new into the mix. And it's going to be law of diminishing returns very, very quickly.
It depends on the price, doesn't it? because that's what's always been the the New Japan business model, hasn't it? Wheel out an aging Kojima, and it'll be, we don't pay him as much, we don't put him in the big positions, but like there's still a live fan that's going to come to the show because he's there. I still find we're not Naito positivity brigade. I don't think we, make the Hall of Fame candidacy that a lot of other podcasts would make for Naito, but I still think it's like the Bray Wyatt thing. I still feel like I'm surprised he's not bringing in more money than he's costing them, for whatever we think of it. And we'll make jokes about the LIJ merch, make jokes about the T-shirts. But I think even in making those jokes, we acknowledge you see a lot of those T-shirts. We acknowledge, especially in a diminishing, New Japan crowd, that like, it just seems odd to me that the money wasn't there. Maybe there's more to it. Maybe we'll find out at some point. Maybe Bushi will talk. Who knows?
And I still think he'd be back around Wrestle Kingdom. I still think he'd go down a freelancer route. I think a freelancer route, and Noah
that
run.
Could be why it was so muted.
His own shows into the mix as well. I think they would be what I could see happening. That he gives Noah a go for 6 months. If those shows don't draw particularly well, that doesn't strengthen his hand. Any companies in the States, I don't know why, because ultimately you got to get him to wrestle, and it wouldn't be something that it just would be dreadful at this stage of his career. And that's why I was like, when they moved him into the tag division, I was like, yeah, I'm fine with that. You still got him on the card. He doesn't have to do the work. He's got Hiromu, but he's still around. And then you can build to a one last championship match that he doesn't win. But yeah, I don't like, I've still always think Noah, because where else is there in Japan? Yeah. And Japan is where is the draw.
Yeah. Well, talking about like the out with the old and with the new, as far as the 2 day shows go, I did think some of the young talent like stood out. I thought Callum Newman put in a way better shift for considering, Callum Newman, considering, where he is in the grand scheme of things and where he is in his development. He surprised me. I think he put in a really good underdog performance in there with Goto. I think to make lemonade out of lemons, not the other way around. Yota Tsuji, kind of becoming the de facto guy in the new LIJ. Thought that was a strong move. I thought he looked, yes, you could probably move him away from the belt, and maybe he's got other places to go on the card. But thought him and Yuya Uemura was a strong match. Thought Yuya Uemura didn't have a terrible weekend, certainly by his standards at the very least as well. I did feel like there was, again, it was thin across those 2 days as far as the things to be positive about, but I think there were things to be positive about across the 2 days. I thought Gabe Kidd even, coming out and obviously getting the big pop and interjecting himself in the main event shenanigans as well. I think that was strong. I think Zack Sabre Jr. getting the big pop as the next, going back to the old and doing a rematch with Goto. But, he's obviously strong and as over as he's ever been with that New Japan crowd. Takeshi thought looked good out there with El Fantasmo. There were a few things to talk as far as their highlights go. I don't know if you agree with any of those, JP.
Yeah, pretty much do with a lot of those.
Bingo Batter and Shota, that was fun. Yeah, I enjoyed that. He's fucking crap, isn't he? He's got no chance.
Yeah.
No, he's not crap. He's just hopeless.
He hasn't found
hopeless is probably the word.
This current character does feel hopeless. He needs to be just a dick. He just needs to be a horrible heel who completely turns against the crowd, which would be justifiable from a character perspective as well. That should be the route of where he goes down. I would be broadly in agreement. The Callum Newman match, because I didn't see as much of it as what you did, but I mean the Callum Newman match I made sure to watch, because I was thinking to myself, I don't even ever remember him headlining a Rev Pro show. He's 22. It's
funny.
Yeah.
Because while I was eating some of the guests, I'm going to keep dropping these references, some of the best pork noodle soup I've ever had. I was listening to Karen and WH on Post Puro, and WH was just completely burying Callum. God, I don't see it. He's never going to make it. He looks like shit. He wrestles like shit in the way that only WH can. So I wasn't ready to shit on it, but I didn't go into it like in the most positive point of view. But yeah, sorry to interrupt. I did think he looked good.
He's 22, and I think that's where a lot of this conversation happens.
That's mad.
He's 22 and he's headlining a New Japan show. And the way that the story of the match went of here is a guy who's effectively just trying to justify his position in that match. And I thought justified it more than Shota Umino justified being in the Tokyo Dome main event. Like the look, it needs sharpening up.
No, it does.
there's a lot of comparisons, obviously, to Ospreay, which they even did in the introduction video for it.
Yeah.
He's not as flashy as Ospreay. And
I think it hurts him. It's very on the nose, and obviously it's very real life too, based on Ospreay's tweets. Like Ospreay clearly sees it in him, and it works with the stable and stuff. But he would be better being his own man. But I think he will be. I think they'll move away from that if they keep going with him.
And I thought his work within the match was thoroughly decent. It wasn't incredible. I mean, in some ways, they're lucky. This wouldn't be in a phrase I ever uttered on the show a few years ago. They're lucky they've got Goto as champion because they've got an older, experienced guy who still can go out of all of the guys of that generation. There's an upper ceiling on it. And he's transitional. Ultimately, this is the one run he gets, but it makes
even from
sense.
a match point of view, though. You know what I mean? Like, no matter how, Callum Newman is not carrying Goto to a better match than that. No. And Goto doesn't get carried to many better matches than that at this point in his career. It all kind of works. I did see the Goto post-match interview. He talked about Callum trying to do the Rainmaker in the spot in the match. He proper it was great that he blended kayfabe, taking a lot of them in my time. I knew I could do it better. It was I quite like that. He's a good little promo work. Goto. Who do you reckon clued him in on the G's for Goto in G1 stuff? I think it was Zach or somebody backstage. It was all these English language fans that are always talking about you, mate, winning the G1. Should make that your gimmick. And here we are. We're here to this day.
Exactly. Yeah. And do you know what? They're doing as much with his run on top as they possibly can do. And when it's over, that's pretty much it. But I'm fine with that. And I'm sure he's fine with that. He will have achieved it. And he won't be just like he held it for one show and he shit the bed. It's just that there's a very limited roster of opponents that he can necessarily go up against. Whether he's holding it by G1 season, that would be something that may not be the case. I could see him losing it, whether it's to Zach or whether it's to Shingo, and then at that point, and it probably should be Zach, whether or not then he would get through to a final, say against a Yota Tsuji, or it should be Yota Tsuji against Yuya Uemura, because that appears to be the kind of career rivalry bit, and then go with Yota Tsuji at the Dome and put the title on him then, and then you usher in the new era, because that's the thing that makes the
that's your guy in
it.
Whether it's a success or it's a failure, watching it again this weekend, I was no, that's the guy. Very clearly that's the guy with the most upside on this roster right now.
And it's like the Callum Newman thing. It's
maybe Gabe aside.
Gabe aside on that as well. But then that's when you're building your four guys up of who you're basing things around. You've got Gabe in there, you got Zach in there, you got Yota Tsuji in there, and Yuya Uemura. They would be the four. And then if you do manage to turn the corner on Shota Umino as a heel, which I think is the only option you can go in, then you've got someone else to kind of throw into that mix. And that's
retirement's an option too.
Yeah.
What can he do? He can't go to another promotion. He can't do this for the rest of his life. What can he do? Go to AEW? Maybe AEW.
Oh no. But they fuck the character. They fuck the character. There was a point after the Dome, it's just turn him heel, make him just shit on the fans, and then he'd at least get the reactions, and then have him work as that kind of character. But no, they've not done that. They've just been insistent of we're still gonna plow through this, effectively him being the same character he's been the whole way through. So at least they're doing stuff. At least I found Callum Newman being in the main event a lot more interesting than some of the other main events that they could have gone with.
And when I say it was good, in context, I'm not saying it was a 5-star match, just in context of it being Goto, it being Callum Newman at this point in his career. There's nothing wrong with that. I'm trying to think any other highlights. Like I say, Zach did as much as he can with Tanahashi. It was fine. It existed. I had a good laugh at a Shingo and Shota Umino. I thought Albert Tasmo and Takeshita was better than it had any right to be. Interesting them bringing across, obviously, Rocky Romero as the heel manager for a bit of AEW law for Takeshita. I guess that's the entire reason, because Don Carlos is not going to be getting on that flight every week. So there you go. You got a man ready made in Rocky Romero to actually get a bit of heat, which was a surprise. First time I've seen that out of him in a New Japan setting. Any notes on that or anything more from day two?
No, I've again most of day.
A lot of multi-mans outside the date that on day two, wasn't it? Really.
Well, that was probably going to be my other bigger point is they're not in a position. It may sound easy for them to do this, but if they just merged this into one card, it would have felt like a pretty decent card between these two shows, and you had that as your one card. You go, okay, that's good, that's stronger, because I think they just, rather than, they're still doing the diluting, we're going to run as many shows as we can in order to try and like drain it all out. It's like, I don't know if that's the way to go here, guys. Maybe you just need to put your best foot forward, put on some shows that get some buzz, and it makes it feel like, okay, there's some interesting stuff going on in New Japan. Let's just go with that. But instead, they're insistent on diluting both nights.
Yeah. Unless you've got more on New Japan, like I said, Goto and Zach is obviously where all roads are leading to. Obviously, I'll be playing Coast Mines as I am. Planning on going to the G1 finals in August while I'm at this part of the world. I'll be I might be looking on very jealously as I spend my money on that and use it all at the greatest Forbidden Door that Tony Khan has ever put on. But we'll see what happens. But yes, obviously Goto Sabres at the Resurgence show in America. I didn't realize that. That's where that is taking place. But yeah, outside of that, anything else you've been watching before we get out of here, JP?
Couple of little things on here. I did want to make mention of, I watched some of the Noah show. I mean, for a lot of it, you didn't necessarily need to see. Other than Jack Morris taking a clean pinfall when they lost the tag belts, which suggested that how long is he really going to be around in there? Because you look at him and you think that's a guy who WWE would think, yeah, we should be getting him into the NXT system, try and develop a kind of a clear character. But there's been a lot of growth from him in there. But I want to mention the main event, which was Azawa, who is there. He's only been wrestling like 3 years. It's insane. Azawa versus Kenta. And Kenta comes out to his old Kenta music, looking very much like Noah in Kenta. Kenta in Noah, even, where he just looks pissed off the entire time, kicking the shit. He was getting boos at points as well. The match itself, I thought it wasn't necessarily great, but it was always interesting to look at. There was a point when you thought Kenta was going to get the win, and then Yoshitatsu's there as like the heel manager for this Team 2000X stable that Azawa kind of leads in there, and he dragged out the ref. Then they had lads coming in, and then Azawa got the clean win and was challenged by Kaito Kiyomiya, who again, he was being booed because this crowd like Azawa, because he's very much like a character. He reminds you of a Naito, and he's incredibly young, and he's got a good look. He does like break dancing in the ring, like very good break dancing in the ring as well, and it appears to kind of work. And he could take some of these nasty fucking blows, and did a decent crowd, like 4,500 in Sumo Hall, which is good for Noah. And I thought it was a decent, like 3.5-star match, but it was one where you're looking at this guy going, he does appear to be a bit of a star. Like, and if WWE say we're going to buy Noah, and it wouldn't be the most shocking thing in the world, would you be surprised? Like, this would be a guy who you'd go for and you throw into the mix. So, like, that was one of the things I just wanted to sort of take from it. I thought it was a decent enough match, and it was a better version of Kenta from what I've seen. But it was probably because it was Kenta and Noah. I think
there's some whispers to that now this year in Defy as well. Kenta might be back. I don't think he's back, but that's what people are saying anyway.
He's not half-arsing it in the way he was in New Japan. Like, that was the thing. You didn't get the impression. Yeah, he's slower. Is he more limited with age? Yeah, of course.
Yeah,
but still fucking decent.
On that, I was going to say, I know you've seen some Dark Side of the Ring, but we will catch up on that next week. Yeah. I'm still behind. I'd like to see the Eddie Gilbert episode and the Billy Graham episode. Is that the latest one that maybe we can do a big old roundup next week? I feel like I've only seen the first one and only a bit of that, the Foley one. I'm not seeing any of the rest of it, so it's on my IPTV, which works like a dream out here. So I'll be maybe I'll load that up over there the next week. That'll be me breakfast viewing.
All I'll say, and I don't want to ruin it, is they get better after the first couple. After the Tony Helmy one, which is only interesting because of like the fact you don't really know that much about him, but he's a prick. After that, from like Vader onwards, they start to get better and a lot more interesting.
Okay, fair enough. I'll get it watched then. yeah, outside of that, the only other quick news notes is Fuego del Sol didn't retire. He came back as himself. He's wrestling without his mask on. As we said, cracking young lad. I think it's a good move for him to go forward doing that. KJ also apparently is his name going forward. I had that as a news note. I also had this much less happy, nice story, the Duke the Jumps the Drosy story that he's an nonce.
Oh, God.
Wrestling for you, innit? Me and obviously not the most important thing. Me and Hamlet were only singing his praises on the last Benno and Hamlet, and obviously talking that in your house period. Like I was a big fan, obviously back in the day. But yeah, attempted aggravated sexual assault is what he's up for. Horrible stuff. Horrible man. Awful to see. And yeah, that was kind of it as far as the news goes, unless you could possibly fill me in on what the fuck was going on with that that Hogan and Bischoff thing he used to talk about the weekend show. That was my first. I have been pretty much keeping in tune with everything going on. That's a story that completely escaped me. I was reading that going, what the fuck? Or listening to you talk about that going, what the fuck is going on here? Amateur wrestling, it's going to go as well as every other attempt outside of the, I guess, technically UFC. Anything they really tried to monetize amateur wrestling usually ends badly. But Terry and Bischoff being involved is going to end up really fucking badly.
Yeah, and I can, again, just to reiterate the point that me and Matty definitely agreed with. I called him Natty there for a second. That's a Freudian slip. That we agreed.
That NWO thing though, like the NWO vignette, like trying to bring that back. Like it's just like Hogan it was like a comedy bit. It was like Saturday Night Live, like doing or it was like the Huckster and the Nacho Man. That's what it looked like in real life, with Hogan fucking limping along, holding his back, trying to be cool into the camera like he was in 1996 or 1985. Even might have been. Oh no, it was 96. 19 years ago. Jesus Christ.
It's not. I can guarantee you they're not putting a penny, rather like WCW.
No, 29 years ago. What am I about?
Oh my God. And they're still trying to use that to sell something for this, which is, according to Forbes, a freestyle wrestling league, which will feature elements of pro wrestling, notably storytelling and colourful characters.
Somebody sent us a link. Was it Eddie, or it was one of the other Kings of the Mountain that someone's tried that before and it didn't go well? Maybe it was Liam. I can't remember now. Somebody found it. Apparently someone's tried that before. Professional wrestling, but it's amateur wrestling.
That's, again, this is the thing. They've tried it. The only time I ever see it working is when it's just on a college thing and they just go, it's college finals. And then they sell out stadiums. Why? Because people are massively into it for real sports. And that's probably their thinking. We can sell it to TV because it's real sports.
And it never works. But
it won't work because of the pro wrestling bit, because that's not what that audience wants in there at all. Ben Askren's involved with it. Ben Askren, honestly, by the time he fought Jake Paul, he was already well and truly gone. He was gone.
It's a shame. He's a good talker.
Oh, he's a great talker, but like he has to be knocking on the door of like 50 at this point. So why the fuck he's there as well? They've got 8 men's weight classes, 4 women's weight classes. It's funded by a venture capital firm who are just probably looking at this and thinking we can get TV rights money in there. And Real American Beer is the title sponsor there as well. And then and Hogan he decided to launch it. I don't know if it was entirely his idea. Obviously saw Donald Trump hug Wyatt Hendrickson after he defeated Gable Steveson, friend of the show. In that was his first loss in like God knows how many years to win the NCAA national championship. So like, it's not going to work. And it's not going to work because if this was it's like UFC, but it's just grappling, then I could kind of get it. And they get all these big college grapplers in who aren't going into the UFC system or are able to compete in it. I could understand this. Outside of that, I can't. And it's going to be, will I watch it week 1? Yeah, because I'm just curious to see how these two are going to fuck it up and try. And they haven't moved on, clearly, given the NWO skit. So this is going to be an absolute fucking disaster.
Real American Beer, I'll go just as well as that, as Simon saying, unless, TKO want a piece of it. I certainly fucking don't. I'm just glad it's not a proper wrestling company that they're trying to do at this grand old age, or Kevin Nash didn't get out of bed to do those vignettes. He's always been a smart man, Kev, apart from when he isn't. Some of those YouTube thumbnails make some interesting reading. But there we go. That's the news. That's all the reviews. That's all caught up, mate. Managed to get through the first one of these while I'm all the way out here. Seemed like everything went smoothly.
So, only your end.
Onwards with,
I went completely pitch black a couple of times, but That wasn't just me switching out the lights for
The
shit.
well ahead, mate. Here, technology-wise, they got us beaten. But I will say the Kings of the Mountain are having a bit of arguments in the chat there about what their weekend show is this week. It is in fact Thursday. Matty's shouting at mine, unless he wants to change his mind and do a Friday. But as Connor said in the Discord, Thursday's just Friday for me now, isn't it, JP? With the time difference. Oh yes, I will be using that. Maybe we could even, I don't know, we could float it. Maybe satisfy everybody a little daytime Friday weekend show action. We'll be a bit earlier. It is, even though I'm awake, my neighbours might not be. So this is probably about as late as my blood can get while I'm out here, 2 a.m, recording this thing. But yeah, maybe a little 2 p.m. job even. We could really keep people on the toes. See how they feel about all that. Feels like a threat, doesn't it? Sorry, lads.
Listen, just listen at work. Sneak a wireless Bluetooth earphone.
I've got loads of listeners. Where'd they all come from? Actually, from tuning in now.
I know.
Somebody
Where the fuck have you been for the last 2 and a bit hours, eh? You're turning up now at this stage. Bloody hell.
Maybe it's all my neighbours here.
God love them. Yeah. Just wondering what. Well, they heard the Thai national anthem and I thought, well, we're in, aren't we? We're very much in with this. So, yeah. No, mate, it was brilliant to have you back on for a proper show. And be able to do it at somewhat of a reasonable time. It's only 8:15 over here, so
more than reasonable for me, mate. I love it. I love a late night recording, so it's catnip for me. Mate. I'm wide awake now after this root beer, so maybe I'll need to nip over to 7-Eleven to quench that thirst and get some.
No
more
caffeine regulations in Thailand, is there? Oh, no.
Anything goes. God's country, absolutely love it. But on that note, obviously, thank you to the patrons and thank you to the live patrons for tuning in. I'd like to throw the plugs up on the screen, but again, we haven't quite figured out the full month yet. What I do know is that the May mixtape is coming up this weekend. 2 matches from May from each of us. We're all going to be picking, and I to nail down what mine are. So I'm sure me and Matty will reveal the full list on Thursday, and then past that we'll have Queen of the Mountain, Sophia Hitchcock joining us to go through hair pick. Very excited.
No idea what she's going to pick. No idea.
Feels like I've heard the homework isn't too tough, and I think compared to Platt,
well, she's won me round already, isn't she? So by doing that was good work.
We'll see how it goes. But there we go. End of the spotlight while it's still light outside. Well, very much not here, but thank you for tuning in, Ewan, anyway. And on that note, like I say, we'll get all that good stuff going. We'll be live on Sunday, live on Thursday for the weekend show. Me and Matty previewing whatever the pay-per-view is called this weekend. Backlash is it? Cena versus Rock. God, my worst nightmare. And then obviously we'll be reviewing that on Spotlight next week, as well as everything else going on. But on that note, thank you, patrons. Thank you, live patrons and YouTube members, for sticking with us. And thanks for everyone's patience over the last couple of weeks while I've got settled. Definitely feels very much at home getting this one in the can as well. But special thanks to our Patreon Kings and Queen of the Mountain, Connor O'Loughlin, Eddie Sideburns, Chris Platt, Carl Gack, Sophia Hitchcock, and Sam Mulvaney. We will catch you again on the weekend show. Good night, all.
Bye.
Good night to my neighbours. Sorry.
# not sorry.